All right, everybody, we are live. Welcome back to another Pokemon Rants. This and is nothing like going back to the ye old card shop and reinvigorating your love of Pokemon. Josh is a man of long history in collectibles, TCGs, and PSA 1 chasing. With his mythical Magikarp hat that you can see right here and his vast knowledge of wine, Josh and his EO card shop are filled with a plethora of juicy gems and jewels that not even Peter Pan can fathom. Join us on this journey as we make a mark in history. Josh, welcome to Pokemon Wonder.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate you reaching out here. I love the content you're doing, and I appreciate another fellow Pokemon ranter who likes to talk long form. I'm always here for it. So
I appreciate it so much. As I said before the stream, deeply appreciate your time, and it doesn't go unnoticed. And deep gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll jump in, man. I do it because I like to know the history of everybody behind. I know they're kind of cliche in some way, shape, or form, but tell me how you got started. How did you get in? What was your introduction? I know it kind of has a mix of different TCGs in it. I do know some of that, but tell me how you got into Pokemon.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm in Pokemon is like my main card game that I'm into now, and it was probably the first card game I got into, but it's not my favorite card game by any means. It's just the one that I happen to land in and do the most business in. I love Pokemon though, so by all means, don't think that doesn't mean that I don't love Pokemon, but like I really like all TCGs. I love cardboard, and so like when I started my business, the old card shop, I didn't name it like the old Pokemon card shop or the Magikarp hat guy shop or whatever. It's the old card shop because I love all cardboard equally. I think I got into collecting probably when I was like 8 years old with my dad. Actually, we started collecting sports cards. Believe it or not, I'm not a big like sports guy. Nobody would ever. I know that'd be a shock to everyone.
Yeah,
everyone probably thought I was out there, playing football and shooting hoops or whatever it is, but I did start collecting sports cards with my dad. So I think my collector gene and like just that cardboard loving started when I was really young with that. Of course, that was great and all, but it wasn't really anything that I like latched onto too heavily. I liked going to the games with them. I was a San Diego Padres fan. I lived in San Diego, so we had a beautiful stadium and like great games to go to. The team wasn't great at the time. We never really were, but it was still kind of fun. I had some favorite players. But then when I was like 9 or 10 years old, Pokemon came out. And it's sort of like, it was right around the same time like Beanie Babies were kind of becoming a thing, and like and so like my interest in the card shops started shifting from like the sports cards to like these colorful animated little like kind of cutesy characters, much to my father's dismay.
I'm sure.
I started reaching towards the Pokemon because like with sports cards you couldn't really do anything with them besides put them in the sleeves and collect them, put them in the box and like kind of show and like collect them. I mean that's what it was. Like you're looking for rookies. So like I liked that the trading cards you could actually like play with. So that instantly as a kid in my little kid mind, I was already geared towards like collectibles for sports cards, like to a little bit, but it wasn't quite what I loved, but it was almost there. Then when I found like the whole like the Pokemon where you could actually use the cards that you really loved, and then they put it towards like the game, and then also there was like the anime and like all the plushies and like the marketing. And this is like one of the first ways that I'm realizing that like marketing, a company that knew what they were doing with merchandising, can really get to you. They can get to your wallet when you're really young and really vulnerable, because that's what they did with me. And so Pokemon
says a man wearing a Magikarp hat, right?
Well, I mean, I'm a 30-year-old man wearing a mat. Yeah, so you got it right there. But it's so early on, I found Pokemon. I went from sports to Pokemon, and I was like collecting a little. My mom would collect Beanie Babies with me. That was like her thing, me and her thing. She wasn't really as big into sports, but she liked the Beanie Babies. So like I would kind of, but that wasn't really my thing so much either, because like I didn't play with them. I just like collected and put them in those like those glass like containers with like
cases,
the tag protectors on them. It's like, so I was very collector about it, but like the utility of playing trading cards, that's what got me. So Pokemon, loved it right away. I went 0 to 100. Like I remember the first time I got my hands on the cards. There was this like, it was like, think of like a Asian supermarket. Like I don't know if you have them out like on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, there's a bunch of like Asian supermarkets and stuff. And there's the only place we could find Pokemon cards was like this. They didn't even speak English. It was like super uncomfortable for me and my like really white bread family. Like my cousin, my mom, my dad would go there, and we'd go and buy Pokemon cards. And like I'd be like at the counter and they'd be super expensive for like a base set pack or whatever, and it'd be like $15. And so it was like really a treat for me to go and do that. And we do it like once a week, once every 2 weeks with our allowances. I feel like it was just like down the block from us. So like I loved Pokemon from an early age, and I really latched onto it because like I had my cousin to play with, and she was a couple years younger than me, and like my friends and my stuff at school, they were getting into it too, because like it was a whole phenomena. And so like I fell into Pokemon naturally, like the rest of us did. I of course was a blue. I did Pokemon Blue. That was my cartridge of choice. I used Blastoise because he was super powerful. But like from there, I kind of found my love of the game itself, less so collecting and more so playing it. And I started playing in the local leagues. I really liked that you would get like points. You get this little card, and they'd like you keep your points on it for like a monthly, a yearly kind of thing, and you'd add it up, and that's how you'd get into like the bigger and better tournaments. But really, it would also come into the prizes you'd win every month. So I love the Black Star promo set, the original 52 card set, because like when I was growing up, I was getting them as they were coming out like in the league. So like I have super nostalgia towards most of the early part of those series. So like the later part, I jumped out around Neo. I discovered like Magic the I think I was probably, it was Neo Discovery. It was right when the I think that's the one the Magikarp is in, right? Neo Discovery. Yeah, so it had to have been that set, because that was the last set I had in my binder. Because when I was going through my childhood binder after I found it, and after getting back to the hobby, I remember seeing 4 Magikarps in a binder sleeve, like, putting 4 cards in each sleeve without sleeve, just because you don't know any better. And I just wanted 4 to play it in my decks. So I was taking them all out now as like a 30-year-old or whatever, 20-something at that time. And I see one of them's not like the others. It was a shining freaking Magikarp that I had behind my base set Magikarps that me as like a 12-year-old didn't know what shinings were, didn't care.
Yeah, whatever.
Threw it in. So that's funny. But so I stopped around that time. That was the latest cards I had. And I moved to Magic the Gathering because I got all my Pokemon cards stolen from me at a local tournament. Pretty sucky. Like it's one of the things being a collector. I'm sure you had to have experience it. Like you've had something bad happen to your collection, whether it's a fire, your parents moving and throwing it all away, or your friend, your cousin stealing it all, and whatever, you can't get whatever it is. Someone's always, it's a part of your collecting journey. It actually helps define you, I feel like, as a collector, what you do after that. And so I had all my Pokemon cards stolen from me at a tournament, except the deck that I was using at the table. But all my like binder and the card that I had under my, under the desk or under the seat when I was sitting there, it was all stolen from me, and I couldn't find it. It was a small town, which is crazy. You'd think you'd be able to find it. Like the local game store owner had his eyes out for it and everything. He was really helpful, but we didn't ever end up finding out who took it. Took a terrible toll on my mental well-being about the hobby. I didn't want anything to do with Pokemon at that point. I put my heart and soul in the game for like 2 years or something at that point. And so I was just pretty much done with it. Thankfully, the local game store owner didn't want to lose my business and my parents' business. And so he convinced me to check out a new game, Magic the Gathering, which was like a new, I tried like the MLB Showdown, and like Legend of the Five Rings was starting to start up around that time. And I really liked that game, but there wasn't a lot of people who played it. But I found Magic the Gathering. And so like, that's where my love of like this.
Exactly. Yeah.
That Urz's, that booster box that's right there ahead of me, that in a lot of my podcasts I reference or whatever, that's the one piece in my collection I probably would not want to sell. I would sell it for important things, but it's like the last thing I'd want to sell, because like that is the set that I bought, one booster pack
when you were a kid.
When after I had lost my collection, I was almost done with it, and it dragged me back into the hobby. I pulled the best card at the time out of the set. Like it was like a $30 card out of the set, which was a $5 pack back then, you know? And so it was a huge deal for me. I traded in for a bunch more packs, and like I got into the game, and then I just got right back on that horse. So
I love it. I love it.
I mean,
other than the stealing part, but I love the story.
The long and short of it, basically. And then like everyone else, I just kind of got out of it at high school, you know, when you found girls for me, you know, basically. But when you found friends, popularity, you try to chase other things in life.
Yeah.
It just wasn't cool to be.
It wasn't the cool thing. Exactly.
Yeah. So like I kept that on the back burner. I always did play Magic to a certain extent, like with my friends. Like we'd get together and we call it poker night instead of Magic night, just to kind of school the people who we weren't supposed to know. But the real cool ones would go play Magic, you know.
Of course.
And it'd be a very exclusive poker night. And I remember this one girl would always get like super weird. She'd be like, how come no one's allowed to go to your poker nights? Like I don't know. It's just, it's a big secret. But we were playing Magic the Gathering. That's why. So if, you know, Sylvia, if you're out there watching, sorry, we were playing Magic the Gathering. It wasn't anything weird.
The whole time they're like, hey, I love poker. Let me come play. No, sorry. We're maxed out.
That was literally the conversation. That was literally, she'll be like, nah, you wouldn't be into it. It wouldn't be your kind of thing. No, I love poker. Like me and my family. No, sorry. It was really rough.
We only got 6 chairs in the house. Sorry, you can't come.
Yeah, like why aren't these girls wanting to hang out with us, guys? What's going on? Like hindsight, right?
yeah. Light bulbs go off. Well, sorry to hear they were stolen, but I think the story, especially of the promos, explains your binder and Eevee buyout. Video that I watched a while back. So I see where that love came from. Yeah.
My favorite card my favorite Pokemon is Eevee. Yeah. I love Eevee. I do like Magikarp too, but it's more just like for the memes. It's Magikarp. Like my no irony favorite Pokemon is Eevee. And Dragonite's like close second. So my love of promos, I have a big binder somewhere on my shelf of Black Star number 11 Eevee promo. And it's filled. It has 72, I think, in it now.
Oh wow! Okay, a lot more than I saw.
It's filled with mostly moderately played, lightly played conditions. I'll never own a PSA 10 of that card. It's a $4,000 PSA 10, so pretty expensive for a guy who slings cardboard like me for a living. So I have it in a PSA 1. That's one of my ones that I
priority
like.
Number 1, PSA 1.
Yeah, I have it here on my desk somewhere as a 1. I was just actually I have a couple copies of it. I sell that card as well in PSA 1, but that's my favorite.
Not quite
card
at the $4,000 mark.
So I got a little stack of those somewhere.
The story makes good sense now. It all connects backwards.
Mm-hmm.
A quick hello as well to some of the people joining. Hey, Julie, I know you couldn't stay long. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Get some rest. Mr. Walrus, always good to see you. Yeah, Josh doing the whining.
I'm good at it. I'm going to have to...
Brad's good to see you.
What's up, Brad? I'm going to have to get the... give me a moment while I pull the YouTube chat up, because I can only see what's on StreamYard right now, and it doesn't ever get all of the good stuff. So while you're going through the chat, let me pull it up.
FOMO, good to see you. Chef, smelling like steak sounds like a good problem to have. Good to have you here, man, as always. Shug, welcome. Always good to see you as well. We got R&D. Congrats on that poll the other day, R&D. I enjoyed that one. You and your son. I love watching you guys open some Pokemon. That's what it's all about. Good to have you with us, Retro. It's been a while since I've seen you in the chat, man. We got some newcomers as well.
I'm curious. Looking at the chat, I see people talking about the Van Gogh promo and everything.
We're gonna get there, yeah.
Did you get any? Did you?
No, I didn't want to buy into it. I'm not gonna pay the prices. It'll come down. I mean, Pokemon said they're gonna release some more in future products. So when that happens, I'll get something then.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay into. I'm right there with you. I personally wouldn't pay into the secondary prices either. But I was lucky enough to actually get some on the second drop. I even took so much as like some time away from it because I ordered a bunch of them and I was starting to feel my wallet getting a little heavier because I was doing like $50 ETB orders and stuff, the Pokemon Center ETBs. I very quickly changed that strategy. But I ended up getting like 7 of them. I thought I had 6, but I got an extra one that I didn't realize that I put an order in for that apparently got pushed through. So I feel bad for anyone who had theirs canceled because like the ones that I got more than what I thought I had ordered. So I was like,
I was trying the first time around. I had it up. I think I was watching Brian with Pokey Annie. He was doing it live. I was actually refreshing the screen while I was watching him. It came up, couldn't get checked out. You know, the whole glitching of the website never happened. So I was like, whatever. I'll wait until they're $30 and I'll buy one.
I would have sworn they were going to be like $30. I was, yes, I thought $50 like was too expensive. 30 was like,
I'd pay 30 for one for my PC for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, like in hindsight, absolutely. Especially knowing that it was only like a 1-day release. It's like it's one of those things, right? Like if it did get the release for the full, 7-8 days it was supposed to for the whole time, and people could order as much as they want,
it would have dropped.
It would have not done what it did. The fact that it did what it did because it had 1 hour on the Pokemon Center where it was available, and then like 10 minutes for the first drop. That was it. And that's what made it, I think, so desirable. It's just like anything else, right? People don't want it until they can't get it and it's too expensive, and then they want it like they never wanted anything else before.
Well, it's the whole parents telling you can't have that, and then that becomes the thing that you go out and do no matter what. Sneak out your window at night and go do whatever the thing is, right? So we'll leave that to your imagination. But
yeah, it's just people can't get a hold of like how to interact with the hobby. I feel like it's kind of a funny thing. We being on the the YouTubers, we're doing it a lot. Like you're probably interacting with Pokemon more than the average person. I think we get in the weeds sometimes, like looking at the average person's consumption of like the hobby and being like, how is this happening? How are these like first to market prices always blah, 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 and like it blows our minds, right? But it's really not that mind blowing when you just kind of break it down, and that not everyone's as in the weeds as we are about it. So like that's where I always try to like combat my own biases and tell myself like, I may think that some of this stuff is like really, really obvious and like, yeah, don't ever buy something right when it's like popular, right when it comes out the gate, because that's what everyone's talking about. But like as a normal person, like when you're most likely to hear about that thing and have all your friends be like, dude, this is the coolest Charizard ever. It just is like when it's the most expensive. And then when it's not, no one's gonna be talking about it. Why are you gonna go on an impulse buy it? Because you really didn't want that thing. You wanted the clout of the hype of the situation. So
exactly. Why does everybody have a Tesla today? Right?
Yeah.
You see more Teslas than everything else. It's the thing that people want. Exactly. And
I don't think that'll ever change either. So
no,
like
it's human psychology.
Yeah. And so like I try to get myself not to fight against that oftentimes, because I can hurt myself by like trying to like think myself into a hole, right? So like
Trying to understand it.
So I try not to like fight that too much. And now I try to lean into it a little bit more, and with that understanding, you can play into it. So
and that's when 6 out of 7 Pikachu promos go for sale really quickly.
I mean, there's one of my 7 didn't look so good, and I will tell you what, that one probably isn't going to be sent to PSA, and that one might be for sale. So,
all right. Well, if you want to sell it privately, let me know. I'd be happy to buy one.
You don't want to buy it from me privately.
No.
I mean, it's those things are stupid dumb. Every day I look, they're like $100. They're like $50.
Yeah.
It's $150 now. I think they are. It was $130 yesterday. I looked, and like people on the Facebook groups, every time I look, the number goes up a little more on the posts. Because are you in a lot of those Facebook groups? Like
no, not yet.
That's smart of you. Because if I were smart like you, that's what I would probably do, because it just can drive you crazy seeing that stuff sometimes. But it also is good content driving. So like every day you see a post like, and it's got so much interaction. It'll be just a simple post. It's a picture, a stock image of the Pikachu, the Van Gogh Pikachu, and it's someone in the top saying, WTB want to buy Van Gogh Pika at lowest recent comps, not trying to pay ridiculous secondary market prices. And they'll say, usually what they'll be is about $20 to $30 under whatever the recent like TCG comps are. But that card moves so damn fast that they'll be probably, when they made the post, they'll put their number out there for what they want to pay. Say it's like $80 is the number they're looking for, and the card was $100 when they made the post. By the time it gets approved by the admins and it goes up there, it's already gone to 120 or 125 or 130, and there are 5 people in the comments already flaming them, laugh reacting them, being like, haha, good luck, fucking idiot, you're not going to get anyone to sell you at that price, that's, you know what, and they're just, and it just boosts the post. So now it's everything, and so like there's 69 comments and 420 likes on this innocuous post from this poor soul who just wanted to buy it for a little bit less than the TCG player price was.
Just wanted to make a profit,
But now he's got to mute his phone. He's got to, hide it from his boss at work, and he's hiding it from his wife because she thinks he's cheating on him, whatever it is, because
who's
he's
texting
getting blown up by this Facebook group. So be careful out there, folks. It can get dangerous. Don't let everyone tell you it can't be dangerous,
guys. You lose your marriage. If you think Teslas are overhyped, you've never ridden in and driven a Tesla. No, I haven't.
Okay, fair enough. I have actually given. Okay, yes, retro. Those things drive smooth
it's nice.
Brown butter. Like it is. Those things drive smooth. They're quiet, and they speed up 0 to whatever in very, very with almost no friction at all. I have driven a Tesla. I've ridden in one and driven one, and I will say I do believe they're a little bit overhyped. But I hear what you're saying, buddy. I hear what you're saying. Shout out to my podcast host, Retrospects.
Yeah,
everyone,
man.
Go tell him to make more content. Every time he makes content, he puts it up and then
he removes it. He removes it. Every time I go look, he's got like 3 videos.
Content. But so let me rephrase that. Just don't tell him to make more content. Just tell him to keep it up. Tell him to keep it up. That's all.
Relist all the content you have. Exactly.
Because he makes great content. So I need to rephrase that. He doesn't need to make more content. He just needs to keep the content he has up. So shout out to Retrospects on that one. Love you.
Definitely, buddy. Retro. Definitely. Keep it up, man. I don't know why you take it down. I'm not sure what your logic is, but we wish we saw more of it.
He's got some logic behind it. I still haven't wrapped my head around it, but he does have reasonings. So I'll say that much. Yeah. It'll be gone in another hour.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Done, it'll be already removed, so I won't even be able to have a chance to see it. By the time this breath is over.
Exactly. It's like I didn't get the hits I want. But pulling a lean hard on us.
Would love to watch it. Sounded great. Heard it was great. Spilled all the sauce.
Too late. Tell me though, then how do you define yourself, Josh, in the hobby? Do you define yourself as a collector, a flipper, a hobbyist? Where do you sit on the spectrum?
Yeah, it's funny because like ever since I left streaming like on Whatnot in early January of this year, I sort of had trouble figuring out what I wanted to be like defined as in the hobby, at least. Because like as far as like in the Pokemon sphere, like what do I consider myself at the core? I consider myself a player. Like I'm a lover of the game. Like when it comes down to it, I don't have time to play the game anymore. I don't have time to interact with it at the level that I would like to really enjoy it, because I really need that deep level of interaction. I can't just casually play TCG. I have to play it like really compulsively, like competitively almost. And so like I interact with it that way, and that's how my core, as like how I see myself. But like me, the old card shop in the hobby, like what do I offer to the hobby? Like what do I consider myself there? That's something I actually did a lot of thinking on after I stopped streaming when I left Whatnot, because that was like where I spent the majority of my time. I'd stream like 5 times a week for like 5-6 hours at a time. It's like full time sitting at a desk, just like you would at a 40-hour-a-week job. And then I'd ship after that and then spend all the extra time sourcing product and all that extra jazz, grading and interacting with YouTube. So like, I really had to sit back and think about like, what am I going to be now that I'm not like a streamer anymore? And I started like selling a lot more online. So I started like viewing myself as like an online store, but like, I really learned very quickly that I need more than that, just like faceless online interaction. It just doesn't work for me. I think
you're not that kind of person. Yeah.
No, like I need to be, and I don't know. I like to talk a lot. I don't know if that comes across at all. So
never crossed my mind.
Yeah, I'm sure that nobody who watches this could ever figure that out. But like for me to be behind a screen and not talking and just like sitting there having to like watch other people talk or listen and like not interact with people, it very quickly got old to me. So like I started like doing things more in person. Like I didn't want to go back to Whatnot because for lack of a better reason, the place is a wretched hive of scum of villainy and it's only gotten worse even with like all the changes they made. So it's like I don't really want to go. I never really got the urge to go back there, but like I miss that interaction of like actually interacting with community. So more than just like doing lives and stuff. So started doing a lot more live shows, like conventions, local shows, so that I could just get out and talk to people once a month is what I started doing.
Okay.
But I started liking it so much that I started doing it probably twice a month, then every weekend. And so I now consider myself more of like a convention seller. Like I do a lot of local shows. I like to view myself as like a traveling Pokemon salesman, as silly as that seems. Like when I first made my logo, I wanted like kind of it to be the vibe of like the merchant in the beginning of Aladdin. Like you come in like, hey, what do you want? It's like a bazaar. Like you roll out like a bunch of random lamps and things and knickknacks and bags and such, trinkets and baubles and cards and shiny things, and so that was kind of, I wanted to be able to just sell a lot of different things. So like I guess I'm a reseller at my core, mostly with collectibles, and cards in general are my specialty. But I guess these days I've really been considering myself a bit more of a podcaster because like for what I do for the community, even though like my business is like selling locally, that's how I make the money that I make. And I like interacting with people that way. Like, I feel like my podcast and like, I like talking a lot to people about Pokemon. Like that's what I kind of, my identity has turned more into, more than a streamer, is like I kind of a Pokemon podcaster, I guess. And it's weird to say that. I mean, it's not that weird. I've had a podcast for like over a year, but still,
yeah. I mean, and it's a lot easier. You don't have to fulfill orders after you're done here.
Not that I don't love doing that too, because like there's some level of like enjoyment that I get when it comes to like selling cards. It's like a weird thing. Do you sell a lot of cards? Or are you purely a collector?
I do a little bit of everything. So I play, I collect, podcasts, obviously. So a little bit of it all. Love the whole hobby. So try to enjoy every piece.
So you can understand, like, there's, even though like I love this stuff, like Charizard, like it's cool, EX Charizard or whatever. Even though I love this stuff personally to own it, I actually really like helping other people get it too and connect people to it. So I get a strange sense of enjoyment out of just interacting with the stuff, being a middleman and kind of buying and selling it. So like allows me to really, this hobby allows me to interact with people in a way that I enjoy on kind of my own playing field with something that I'm very comfortable with. So it's it's weird though, cause like moving through the hobby through the years, because I've been back in the hobby pretty hardcore since 2019 now, and I haven't taken many breaks from it. But your identity changes as you like go through it, and as the economy of the hobby changes and everything too.
Okay, all right. So podcaster / reseller / local traveling event. I love it. Let's look at your collection. Let's go back to that magic box that sits behind you. You went through pretty much everything. You've done Flesh and Blood. You mentioned a few. You've done One Piece. You did play in a little bit in Disney. I've heard you probably speak about every TCG that I've heard of to some degree. And I'll start out with a zinger here. So, which one's the best?
It's none of the above, actually. Funny of you say that. Like, the card game that I have the most like attachment to is a dead and like it's a long dead card game. It still exists in the form of like an LCG. So, okay, kids, here's a little history lesson, or a little history of what happens to great card games when they eventually have to die. Most great card games.
We're talking about Magic now.
Well, I hope not. If Magic ever becomes an LCG, you're going to see a lot more looking to sell posts on that kind of thing. But LCG is a legend. I think it's a legendary card game or something. It's some weird other denomination of card game that when you stop being a trading card game that comes out with like regular set rotations every X amount of months, years, whatever, when you stop releasing regular sets, but you still want to release your game and make some money off of it because you have an IP, you've built all this time developing a fan base, even if they aren't buying into your every single monthly set, you still have a fan base. Well, there used to be a game called Legend of the Five Rings that once upon a time had a vibrant, it had a vibrant and thriving tournament scene, which had some of the coolest and most unique, I think, gameplay concepts that I've ever seen attempted and actually and done in a TCG. Legend of the Five Rings was made in like the late 90s, or I think it's early 2000s. It's in the 90s, I believe, as early as like 99. And it's got about 5 or 6 iterations. It's a feudal Japanese based like trading card game. So think ninjas, samurai, shikigami, like old school, like feudal Japan lords, like all that kind of thing. But the games were so intense. So it was about 9 different clans that were at war. And the thing about the trading card game that was so cool was that the players actually dictated what happened with the storyline and the sets based on the tournaments and based on how the players were doing and the meta of the game itself as it was developing.
That's cool.
And so, so like I got into the game and like you would pick the way, like with Magic the Gathering or with Pokemon, there are like 5 different colors, right? You play with all of them. You just play with whatever, you get the best cards, you make a multiple. That's how those games work. With Legend of the Five Rings, it's different. You actually pick one of those clans, you stick to that clan and you don't deviate. You have enemy clans that you actually grow to like have hostility towards. Like I hate the Scorpion clan to this day.
You get the in group and the out group. Okay. I see.
And so you didn't make, like when a new set came out, you don't make a dragon clan, a scorpion clan, a phoenix clan. You only use the dragon cards in that set to make your dragon, and you have a clan loyalty to your clan. And every tournament that happens, you log your points at your local game store. And depending on how many people at all the local game stores that logged their points that month that sent it into the company logged up the points for like what clan did the best. And over the course of the year, they would release these 3 or 4 magazine installments. And in the magazine, they would do a story where there'd be these editors, and the editors would be like writers, and they would actually write the story of the next set and the game based on how like certain clans were doing in the actual card game. So like it would just come, and they had the craziest like prizes for their champions. The champion didn't get a trophy. It wasn't like this like Legend of the Five Rings like trophy with a little engraving. It was a fucking samurai sword with your name engraved on it with your clan's logo. It was your clan's fucking samurai sword.
That's awesome.
It was fucking cool. So like as a kid, you wanted that samurai sword. Obviously, you wanted to influence.
What a way to get people in.
Yeah, and it lasted for probably a good 12 years or so. And so the problem with Legend of the Five Rings is it would every 5 years it would have some weird identity crisis. And it would like, I don't know if it would lose licensing, if it would just like the developers would not know what they wanted to do with the game and they'd have to rebalance it. but they would actually change the rules of the game like every 5 to 7 years, it felt like. And at one time they changed the backs of the cards, so you couldn't use the old backs with the new backs, so you had to like have different editions. It started making it so incongruent that you couldn't play with the different cards. You had to know too much, so like the game eventually petered off and died. So, and it became what is now, it still exists in the form of a board game where you get these 9 pre-made decks that are smaller versions of all the different clans. And you just basically pick one and play it right out of the box, and you just kind of put it back in the box. So it still exists, but it's not like it doesn't have like it was all about like the tournaments and the points and like the hype of like building your clan's like reputation and defeating the Scorpion clan. It was all about just crushing the Scorpion clan is really what it was all about.
I got 2 interesting comments on that. The first one is, Retro, what you probably picked up there, we're going to have it now recorded for history, is his love for Japanese. So you heard it here first. He actually truly loves it. It's deeply ingrained in him, even since 1999. The second thing is, I think you just described our entire political system without the prizes.
Here I am thinking, this is going to be a Pokemon podcast.
It went downhill really fast.
I know, right? Jeez, I wasn't planning on getting canceled this early.
Well, we won't go down that path. We won't go down that path. We'll get it back on track. It was just a joke. But no, I actually didn't expect that because I thought you would actually say something like Magic or something of that nature. But I have to check that one out. It sounds really cool. I'm sure my mom would not have let me got the samurai sword.
Yeah, so above my head on one of these shelves, there's a fair amount of Legend of the Five Rings, because I think I'm probably one of the only people in the entire world who actually likes the stuff.
Exactly, right? I'm sure there couldn't have been any issues from issuing samurai swords as prizes.
Listen, I'm not here to be the guy to go into the logistics of like what kind of what kids can own samurai swords or not. But I'm just trying to say that if you didn't own a dull metal samurai sword that the hilt got all loose and wobbly after you swung it around and hit a tree a couple of times before you were the age of like 15, you probably didn't live a full childhood. That's all I gotta say, and I feel bad for you. I'm sorry.
Well, and I'll even add to that, things were very different in the 80s and 90s. If you're growing up now, you'd be lucky to get a butter knife. So
I grew up in I know you're from you're not from California. Like I'm from Ohio. California, but I have a little bit of roots in, I don't know, I wouldn't call Oklahoma the South, but like I have family in Oklahoma, and I lived there from the ages of like, I don't know, 9 or 10 maybe until 15 or 16, maybe 15 or so. So really early on in my life. And I think one of my earliest memories of being in Oklahoma is like as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old is having a .22 rifle slung over my back, just going trouncing around in the woods back behind my house, just like shooting leaves on trees or whatever. Like it's just a different time. It's a different time and a different place back then.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. You get butter knife today, and you can get arrested and sent to prison for 30 years. Exactly. You're deep down the rabbit hole at this point, Retro. When you hear the statement, have beef with the Scorpion clan, that's when you know you've went too far. You need to go back. You need to go back, my man.
Listen, I'm Dragon Clan for life, Retro, and if you don't understand what it means to need to crush the Scorpion clan, then you obviously have never fought against the daimyo and had them underhandedly make you discard down. And the thing about Scorpion Clan is they're one of the only clans that will dishonor you to lose. Most other clans, they'll just battle you. They'll just try to battle you like a normal human being. No, not Scorpion Clan. They got to go the shady route, and they got to dishonor you. They got to like underhandedly, got to like try to take out your emperor. It's all bad. So just let me tell you, you would have the same feeling about Scorpion Clan if you actually knew a Scorpion Clan player.
He says, I get it. I'm Rocket Gang for life.
He would have been a Scorpion Clan player. That's the thing. Retro would have been a Scorpion Clan player. So we would have been enemies from the get-go. So that's...
We'll never know. We'll never know, man. It's too late. Too late.
He's
Michael,
never going to get it anymore, though, because I own most of the sealed product in my diamond hands. I'm not letting any of it go.
He says Rudy's got it. Rudy's got it. 60%.
You know, I wouldn't doubt it. To be honest, Rudy is one of my top 5 favorite YouTubers of all times, simply because he probably is one of the only people who knows more of these dead card games than like Radar or me or one of these other people who just loves the stuff. Like,
well, he's got so much money tied in him, he better know it.
Yeah, I don't. If it wasn't for his Patreon, I don't know what Rudy would be doing. Like he has got a sweet gig hooked up. Like I always feel like people get Rudy, they look at Rudy and they want to be like Rudy, but there's a long road to get to being like Rudy, and you couldn't just wake up one day and decide to be like that. Like Rudy there's a long journey he took to get there. But I love that guy. I'd love to meet him someday.
What is it? You're celebrated in public for what you practice for years in private, right? So
yeah, I think that accurately describes the position Rudy's been put in now, because everyone looks at him like he's this big whale. He's probably a pretty hard worker, though. Like it seems like from the way he puts out, like his persona, he always pretends like, or maybe he's not pretending. He's like he's always working. He's always behind the scenes doing something.
I think he's actually doing it. Yeah.
And I do believe it. So like you don't get to being there by kicking back and going on vacation all the time.
That's right. He doesn't seem like that type, anyways. Well, Michael, I saw your message a few minutes ago, so thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. Truly means a lot. Kind words. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you with us, and hope you enjoy. Pack some orders, as you say. Pack some orders and put us on the background, and let's have a good time. All right, man. So let's go back to your collection, because I still have 1 or 2 more questions. So tell me, other than the few things in Magic, are you a sealed collector? I saw your PSA 1 collection. I saw some of that. Where are you venturing? Like, what do you do in the space of collecting for yourself?
I personally am more of a sealed collector. So like I have my old childhood collection in binders. Like I have from base set to I think Neo Destiny. I have a few holes in those binders, but they're pretty much filled out. I don't like go and actively look for cards to fill in the holes, because like they wouldn't be my cards from my childhood, and I just don't really care that much. I don't really look at them often. They're not worth enough that I'd sell them, but they're also to the point where they're not special enough to me that if they ever became worth a lot, I wouldn't not sell them. So I'm not a binder collector. I do have my binders, but that's not the part that means a lot to me. I really like sealed stuff. Like, so being as ingrained in it as I am, like the singles mean almost nothing to me. I personally played a lot of my favorite games of card games with literally basic lands with the name of the card written on it as a proxy, because I grew up fucking poor. Like I lived in trailer parks when I was growing up. So like I literally grew up poor as shit. So I didn't want to let that ever stop me from playing the game. And I always knew what the cards did. So I would always just get the lands and write on with a Sharpie or a marker what it was. And most of the time, until I was like, even up until the time where I had money to play the game, that's how the majority of like my playing went. So like I know these cards inside and out. So instead of like wanting an individual card, I like the idea of sealed product, because I feel like with sealed product, I can open it and get a full experience enjoying the product, how it was meant to be enjoyed. Now, am I ever going to do that with a lot of the sealed product that I own? Probably not, because I got that experience when it came out or whatever, or I don't have the time or whatever it is. But the theory that I could have that experience in my mind makes it so much more valuable and worth it that I like having the sealed. So like having the single card, I just know there's a million of them. It doesn't matter to me. I could just write it on a land and have the card and play with it if I wanted to. But like to collect something, to own something that I want to look at, that I'm not just going to tear open, like it just, for me, I like sealed. So like I get when people need to have the card like to look at, to see the thing, but I'm so deep into it and I know these cards so well that like I know every single card in the set of this I want to say $7,000 box, but it's probably closer to like a $6,000 or $5,000 box now. and that hurts my soul because that used to be double that. But I know every card in that set. So if I don't open it, I theoretically have potentially every card in the set in that box. If I do open it, I have every card that I open from the box, but I might miss a couple of cards. So as long as I never open it, then I have all the cards because I know all the cards. Now, if I didn't have a connection, if I didn't know the set, if I didn't love the product, if I didn't have that sort of connection or that attachment to it, I wouldn't want it sealed. So there's a double-sided part to that logic, you know.
There's a nostalgic connection, but then you're also creating for yourself that Christmas morning that never comes.
Yes, and I'm a treasure hunter. When it comes to it, like my enjoyment of the hobby, my enjoyment of like collecting in cards is often in the hunt and in the finding of that treasure, that like little hit of joy, that endorphin. I'm a hedonist. I love the experiences of life, that little bit of endorphin, that hit that you get from when something good happens. I live for that, and I always have. And so, like, I stopped getting that once I own the thing, and it's like I didn't get it. So
you can't re-experience it at that point, right?
Yeah, so it goes into that treasure hunting. So I also understand pack opening and why this hobby is so like ingrained in that gambling, that digging for treasure, because I get it, man. I get it. I get it in other ways, but I totally get that.
Yeah. We this one here actually. Yep, I think we all have a story there, Chef. I got my own. Maybe I'll answer them one day. But yeah, we all kind of grew up in different areas, and you know, now from trailer park to vineyard, living the life, man. Living the life. Love it. Hey, Thrifty, glad to see you. Thanks for joining us. Josh out here. Let's see. Buy one blister, keeping it sealed, and claiming is a complete set.
I mean, that's the logic. Yeah, it saves a lot of money that way, you know?
Right? It's the lies we tell ourselves that creates the happiness for the future there, Mr. Roller. So, you know, tell yourself some good lies. You'll be happy for the rest of your life, my man.
Yeah, and it's also one of those things that, like, I do this full time, and I had a larger PSA 1 collection. I had a few like PSA 10s. I was like, I really like this in a 10. It's modern. I don't want it in a 1, so I'll get it in a 10 and I'll keep it. But like I've all since like sold a lot of that, and I've brought it down and really narrowed it down to what I really like now. So I'm much, much more narrowed about what I collect, because like anyone who does it full time will, I think it's just the reality of it. You can't collect and sell full time at the same time. It gets exhausting and expensive.
It's hard.
Yeah, it just doesn't work out. So like my collection's gotten a lot smaller ever since I started selling full time. I've been selling full time for a couple years now. So at this point, it's very narrow. Let's just say my collection it's very narrow, and it's things that I very much so enjoy. And if I didn't really enjoy them, I would have sold it years ago.
Yeah, I think of a good way to phrase this, but it's the repeating theme of the business owner's dilemma, the business owner's collector dilemma. Your collection disappears and you become more business. As long as the business requires you to make money and you depend on it, the collection will no longer survive. If it's a side hustle, they could coexist perhaps because you got another source of revenue. The moment you depend on it to pay your light bill, like, well, that $7,000 box, I can get another one. Let me sell that one. Somebody gives you a good price. Yeah.
Yes, it's one of those things that like you pay a price to a certain extent. You really want to, like I was alluding to, if you want to collect, you probably don't want to start relying your full-time income to be based on the hobby, because all the money that you would have put into the hobby that was like extra money that you would have had like as extra money,
collection.
That's your collection. Usually you have to put that towards your actual like life bills and things. So you're not going to take that away from the business, right? Or the things that you need to make money, and you're not going to take that away from your food. So where are you going to draw that extra money from? Your hobby spending, most likely. So
exactly.
There are a few things that I've put back. Like, let's just say that I like Crown Zenith a lot, and I think that Crown Zenith is going to be one of those sets that I'm going to kick myself if I mostly sell everything that I get. Like I'm one of those sellers who I don't have the real luxury of like buying 6 cases and selling 5 of them and keeping one for free with the profit, because like that profit, those are my bills. So like that free case, that's me, that's my monthly
that's
bill.
your ability to go out for a restaurant this week.
So so like I value those things. So like I don't throw a case of every single set up on the shelf. But Crown Zenith is one of those sets that even though I don't do that, I am going to do that. I'm going to make the actual decided effort, and I'm going to tell myself, don't sell this even if you need to, because it's going to be good to have in a year from now. So like I don't do that with every set though. So like you just have to make more like conscious decisions about what you actually believe in when it comes. Now, I don't know, maybe other people are out here and they have they have bigger wallets and bigger like confidence in every single set. And like, I know there are people out there who buy a case of everything equally, but like, I'm much more of the mentality that I want to pick and choose things. So
yeah, I would agree with you. And I've definitely came to that same realization in terms of refinement myself just over the past few weeks, ironically. Walrus, don't make me get Dan in here and moderate you, okay? Any tomfoolery is welcomed on this podcast. All of it.
I don't think that it's possible to moderate a walrus. I don't know. You try to moderate a walrus, it creates one of those weird holes in reality, Well,
the next one pops up and it's 2, right? It splits like Mr. Anderson and
we don't need 2 of those. We definitely don't need 2 of those in the hobby. One's plenty. It's great. One's fine. We don't need 2.
I don't know what Rexham is though.
It's a show that's so Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. And Mac from Always Sunny.
They
bought a soccer team, or a football team in Europe called Wrexham. It's from the town called Wrexham, I guess. And they made like a reality TV show about it. And last year they made it. It was like the first year, and I started watching it. A couple episodes. It's really good. It's very good. But he's saying something about it. I bet it's getting good. They're probably starting to win or something. Like they bought this like really shitty team that was like down in the dirt, had a lot of heart, but like a lot of soul, but they're not a great team. And they're trying to like build up the team, and like they're using their fame, and like it's kind of a weird reality show. But
I watch too much YouTube to watch TV. If it's not Pokemon episodes with my kids, then I'm not watching any TV. Every time I try to put something on, I try to go back and watch like Big Bang Theory, and they say a couple of things. My kids hear it, I'm like, okay, sorry, I got to turn it off.
Yeah, it's tough to keep up with everything, to be honest, with all the great content that's out there on YouTube, especially with all the great long form content, right? So I find myself being able to basically keep up with my Marvel shows and my my animes that I watch. But other than that, I'm pretty much clueless. I know what the local shows are. Like, if you ever want to know what the local shows in Northern California are, you can always hit me up. I'm very well informed on those. But if you want to know what's going on in like the world around me, was there an earthquake yesterday? Is a volcano going off right now?
No idea.
No clue. No idea. I don't know.
President, not sure.
Who is it? I'm not sure which one this is. Yeah.
All right, man. So let's go one more thing into the hobby in terms of kind of your playability, and then we'll jump over to the business side. If you were able to be a professional TCG player, what TCG would you choose today and why?
So if I was a professional and so the only professional card player that I know by name, it's got to be, so the answer is got to be that, right? The only one I can think of is an old Magic player that literally had his name put on like boxes, on like the back of cards. He designed so many cards because whenever you'd win a pro tour, you get to design a card to go in the next set for the next year. They would have to like nerf it, and R&D would have to go and like change the card a little bit, but they would always put the player's face on the card. And so the most famous Magic player of all time, Matt Finkel, is like probably the TCG player that I would want to learn from. I don't know if I'd want to be him, but I'd want to like play against him and like, learn from him for sure. But
so
he's the only one
Magic?
I know. Like,
no, what would you be if you were going to pick a TCG and be a professional as a player?
Not be another. I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I totally misunderstood the question. I would probably be a professional in Magic the Gathering if I had the choice, because that's the one I'd be the most comfortable with. Right now, not at all. So this is like in a perfect world. Like if I was going to play a game right now and try to go pro, like today, like what I would want to do, Josh, if I had another shadow clone jutsu and I could make another one and go play, I'd probably be playing Lorcana right now, because like I would want to be getting into Disney World or Disneyland for the tournaments, like, because like they're gonna actually hold the what is it called, like the finals or whatever, the yearly tournament at Disney World or Disneyland. Nice. I forget which one it is, but that is insane to think about. I mean, just nice. Like I feel like if I had the time and I wanted to like get it, and I bet you Disney will put big prize money into it, and honestly, you're gonna be playing against a bunch of like people who don't understand TCGs. Like Lorcana is such like it's so inviting to the everyday person who isn't usually the person who goes into the like sweaty neckbeard TCG denizen or cave that is your LGS. Most of the normal people, they will never venture into that dark and musty area of the strip mall. You know what I mean? Whereas we go into those smelly places like it's nothing. We walk in there and we're like, ooh, smells like victory and cardboard. But most normal people would smell it, 5 doors down, and they wouldn't walk in. Yeah. Lorcana, for the everyday person, is so accessible that if I was looking at opponents that I'm likely to face in the early part of the game, I'm so much more likely to face someone who's not experienced playing Lorcana than I am when I'm sitting down with someone playing against someone like with Flesh and Blood, or, a really experienced card game, a game that really rewards experienced card gamers. Yeah, so I'd go for something that was really like new and upcoming that I think my opponents would be a lot easier, and that'd be Lorcana, I think.
Yeah, I think you just called it right out there, Thrifty. Yeah. Going in and wipe out all the newbies. We heard you, Josh. We heard you. I think this is the longest tangents here, so we have to apologize to Josh in advance.
Yeah, well, so funny. We knew it was going to go long too. So
yeah.
I'm getting boxes.
Don't get angry, Josh. Don't get angry, man. We agreed to this up front, man.
We might have just had an earthquake here in Northern California, but I wouldn't know about it. That's my earthquake tracker. That's how I know if we have earthquakes. It's when shipping boxes fall on my head.
I love it. Let's go ahead and jump onto the business side, Josh. So you're full time. You've answered kind of that up front. You've been in full time since 2019-ish, because you left the winery was your last job, right? So
technically I went full time in like 2021.
Okay.
The winery, I was still working for the winery while I was doing this on the side from like 2019 to 2021, but I had the opportunity to either go back to work when the pandemic shut down for the second time. And then, so the first time with the pandemic, everything shut down, but then everything reopened for like that summer
in California.
And we had like that 3 or 4 month period where you went back to work. I went back to work, and I was doing this part-time at the time, and I was doing it both. But then we got shut down again, and we got back into the groove of the pandemic. And so when it came back to going back again, I was a little more ingrained in whatnot. I was a little more doing the live streams, the sellings, and it was just the thought of going back to my normal 40-hour-a-week job and doing Pokemon just didn't seem plausible. I could do it like part-time, but I'd have to take a serious step back. And so I made the decision to basically not go back to selling wine full-time and instead just keep pursuing Pokemon. And so that's when I really started going for it. It was like 2021, I would say, because that's when I stopped getting a paycheck from my old job. Like, and I started really all my money that I was making was from Pokemon. Because like before, you're getting your paycheck from other, you're putting like your side money in. It's like kind of a thing. You don't need, like when you start doing it, like where all your money is coming from it, it's that's when I would consider that. So like 2021 is more realistic. Yeah.
Okay. And when you did that, did you already have your base salary from the winery covered, or were you actually starting off in a hole and you had to build yourself up?
So I was making more money on the side doing Pokemon than I would have made than I was making daily at the winery on like a per week basis kind of thing. And so that's how my math worked out at the time, is that I would take a cut in my pay by a significant amount by going back to working the full time. And so that was 2021. Obviously, the market was in a crazy booming place and I was really well established and set up. So it was really, it was a no-brainer for me.
Okay.
But if it wasn't in the, like, if I had to make the same decision today, I wouldn't make the same decision today. Like, say I was, I was working part-time at a winery, right? And I was like, I hate this, or I really am tired of doing this, and I really want to sell Pokemon full-time. I'm doing okay. I think I could do okay. I wouldn't feel comfortable in the market right now doing what I did in the market in 2021, because in 2021, I'd been doing it for 2 years and I saw the parabola. I was experiencing it. Now I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years and I'm seeing this and I'm experiencing the other side. So like, I personally wouldn't do the same thing now that I did then, but life's about being in the right place in the right time and taking chances. And really, I always thought I could go back to selling wine. People drinking wine for thousands of years, literally thousands of years. And I don't think they're going to stop after whatever, X, Y, or Z. And I didn't forget how to sell anything and that's all I was as a wine salesman. I did tours in the wine industry. But really what tours are is just a long form way of selling wine. Like,
I've been to one.
a wine tour is the long form Pokemon content to the short form top 10, top 5, 10-minute content. It's like, which is like just walking into the store and buying the first thing on the rack.
No, it's even worse than that. You go on the tour, they give you samples along the way, get you drunk, and then at the end of it, say, okay, how many cases do you want? You're like, wait, what?
See, now I know you've been on a wine tour because you started talking in cases. Like the people who talk in bottles, those are the people I know have never been on a wine tour, because you don't go on a wine tour and walk away with a bottle. No. Typically speaking, you go on a wine tour and you walk away with like a wine club, cases, and a contract to buy more quarterly. Literally a signed, a dated, a law-binding contract that says you're going to buy more every year at this date, and if you don't, we're going to come find you with wine, knock on your door, and I'm going to be there with my Magikarp hat saying, hey, you want your wine club shipment? You agreed to it.
Oh, that's good stuff. So yeah, definitely easy sells on the sales for Pokemon, that's for sure. You got the skill set all built up. We have a couple of good ones here. Let's answer Chef first. So give your quick reply. What's your favorite? Why?
Rosés, typically a dry rosé. I don't like a lot of tannin in my wines. I don't like big heavy cabs. So I really like a nice Pinot, a nice light Pinot, or a really soft Merlot, typically speaking, if I'm going to have it with some meat. But I really like rosés if I'm just like drinking. I like fruity, bright, I'd order fruity cocktails when I'm out if I am going to drink like something. I like things that taste good, you know. So I really like, and the wineries I've worked for in the Napa Valley have all made really, really good rosés. So they all make good cabs too, but like cabs are a dime a dozen. Like a winery that makes a good rosé is so much more rare than finding like a good cab. It's like, I mean, you can find a dozen good cabs, and most, and 99 out of 100 people couldn't tell the difference between a good cab and a bad cab. And we're not even talking about different types of wine. I'm talking about just an expensive bottle of the same type of wine from the same place. So wine is so like nuanced. It's ridiculous.
It's almost like Pokemon cards.
I don't miss it.
Love me some drink. He's already going to get 3 cases, please. So put his order in. Sea salt.
Yeah, so seasoned salt, you would be one of my favorite customers. I always like the customers who buy multiple cases.
Right.
There were these Texans that would come in and buy from me every like 6 months or so. And they specifically would come to Napa, and they'd fly in on a private jet. And the way I learned that one time was the first time I interacted with them when I was going to check them out for their wine. It's always a pain in the ass shipping alcohol, okay? Anyone who's ever had to ship alcohol across states and borders, and like to do it officially, you're not just shoving it in like a sweatshirt and hoping USPS doesn't find it, but to do it actually, like officially, it's a pain in the ass. So I had this group of rich Texans that were out from Texas and enjoying the Napa Valley, and we're closing up the sale, right? And I was wrapping up how many cases you guys want. They were racking up quite a few cases, and I knew it was going to be a pain because like after 12 bottles, you have to go through even more forms to ship that amount of alcohol to like a residential address, mind you, not a business address. And so I was really worried. And so I was like, so guys, you might want to consider doing the wine club and get it shipped out in multiple shipments rather than taking it all with you at once, because you're going to run in. And they're like, oh, don't you worry. We got a private jet. And I was like, oh, well, shit. Well, load that shit up. And they bought, no joke, $8,000 worth of wine that day. And that was my first interaction. They came back multiple times, like over the course of several years. So like, and each time it'd be progressively a little more. And it's just like, you meet people like that in the world. And then you hear people in the Pokemon space trying to say they think that people in Pokemon are rich. Like, get the fuck out of here. Excuse my language, but people in the Pokemon space are not rich. I have seen rich people, and there's nobody in Pokemon who's rich, okay? There's people who are like, they're flirting with the idea. Maybe their family is rich, and they're like living off of that money. I'm looking at a couple of Pokemon people I can think of, but they're not rich. They're just flirting with that idea. They get bailed out by their families, but they're not actually like flying on private jets and like, you know, buying out. Maybe they are, but I don't know. I think there's probably a couple people who are, but yeah.
How do you think all those buyouts happen in Collecticons, man? They fly in the jets, come in and buy you guys out, and they leave.
Yeah, when you're spending $8,000 at one place in rotten grape juice from some 20-something-year-old dude with long hair who probably doesn't really even like wine, because like, sure, I know about wine, but like, am I a buyer on a fucking $200 bottle of cab? Hell no. Am I a seller on a $200 bottle of cab? How about a $300 bottle? That's what I'll tell you, because the $200 bottle is good, but I got this one in the back that's way fucking better than the $200 bottle, and you got to have a fief. And I'm going to get a special like carafe for you. I have to get the winemakers okay to just taste the shit. So by the time you're done walking out, you feel bad about not buying that. So yes, people in Pokemon are not rich.
So this is when he slides out the PSA 1. So that conversation and that whole sales pitch transposes perfectly to selling slab PSA 1s.
And that's why I collect PSA 1s, baby, because I am not a buyer on $300 bottles of wine.
I love it.
But I'll sell the hell out of them.
So then let's go back to the business for a second and tell me, how is your business structured? You set up as an LLC, sole proprietor,
so I'm an
by
LLC,
yourself?
technically, in California. All states are a little differently, and I know some people can get away with just doing like sole proprietorship, or I guess some states you just need a resale license, but I'm structured so I can actually take write-offs and, you know, not financial advice, but whatever works best for you, I would recommend talking to someone, probably a professional, about your specific state, because there are ways that you can, when you do make big gains, if you spend a lot of money to make those gains, you don't have to pay as many taxes on it. And that's always recommended, to not have to pay as much as far as when it comes to Uncle Sam.
We'll get Dan in here. He'll give us all the tax advice we need.
Luke, and it was really easy for me. I just went online and looked up, my local state laws and things. I went through LegalZoom and had them help me kind of get through some of the stuff that I was a little confused with. So then they get you some help. And then when it comes down to like doing taxes, you just kind of find someone local or someone that you can trust and give them all your information, and whatever they tell you they need, they'll help you work it out. So, yeah.
If you think Private Jets and Scorpion Clan is going to be the end of this, you got another thing coming, Luke. Hang tight, man.
Yeah. You keep mentioning that Scorpion Clan, and I'm going to have to unfollow and unfriend. I didn't know you rolled that deep with them, Thought you were a good person. Yeah, I didn't know you were one of those shady Scorpion Clan guys.
I have some questions coming up, and we'll see, Luke, if he name drops you here in just a few minutes. But we'll see. So your LLC, you're running by yourself, so you don't have any other employees. It's just you yourself.
We're going to keep it that way.
Employ your wife.
A robot. Yeah. But no paid employees that have have to be deal with that complication.
Okay. All right. Well,
and no intention for it either. As much as it sounded like, when I was doing a lot of whatnot, when I was really like in the weeds with shipping and doing my lives, I considered maybe getting like a little help or something, but just the thought of the headache that would cause, I didn't want to have to like hide it or something, and I didn't want to do it under the table. And so I just very quickly was like, nope, not going to do that.
No. This is the limit. This is where we max out. Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, that's not why I wanted freedom. I didn't want to be, chained to an employee, basically. That's not why I did this.
Well, it reminds me of that conversation he had with James at ZNG. That's when everything changed, and he's just, James speaks about it, rightfully so. At that point, you're just managing business and payroll and taxes, and you're not really engaged in the hobby. I think he even said himself in that podcast, he felt disconnected. So when you're at that point, it's just about managing business. What have we got going on here? People getting crazy?
Yeah, let's see what the chat's doing. I need to take a look at the chat. I've not been good. So everyone who watches a lot of my lives, that I'm terrible about actually watching the chat. And
I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Yeah, don't worry. I try to bring it in context for the most part.
Okay, good.
Miss Kitchens, fat server makes a mistake and gets roasted. Cute girl doesn't, and she gets a free meal. That's exactly right. Exactly right. I used to be a chef myself, actually.
Really? What kind of what kind of restaurants or restaurants?
Oh no, the worst. Yeah.
So like you were like a line chef at like Denny's or something, or what is the worst?
I started off McDonald's.
Ooh,
that was my first job. Oh, look at that! Look at
that! I'll get a like for that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Started off at McDonald's, then went to Krispy Kreme. Then from Krispy Kreme, I worked at Target. And while I was working at Target, going to high school, I then also was a cook third shift at the Waffle House.
Wow. You've run the circuit of all of like the big chain restaurants and like department stores. Yeah, like right. You're just missing a couple
Gators
checklist. You'll hit bingo soon though. My first job was Starbucks, so we can add that onto the list. Maybe between the two of us.
We can knock them all out. We got all the big franchises. It was good. It was good. Not a good chef. Nothing like you. I promise, chef. It's not even comparable. My meals now at home on the grill are far better. But no, I wouldn't even call myself a chef. I cooked. I put it that way. I cooked. All right.
I love food, man. Like that's one of my passions other than Pokemon. I'd say that's my guiltiest pleasure is like good food. Like I stopped smoking cigarettes when I was like 24, I think maybe. I smoked cigarettes from when I was like 17 to like 24, and I quit when I joined the wine industry because I couldn't smoke while I was at work because it was always frowned upon to smell like cigarettes in the tasting room. So I would end up not smoking for like 8 hours at a time, and then I would just like tell myself like, why do I do this if I'm like not doing it for most of the day? And so I eventually quit smoking, and then I met my lovely fiance, and then my now fiance. But at the time, I is my girlfriend, and she hated smokers, and so it convinced me to like keep not smoking. And then I realized that whole time that I was smoking cigarettes, it was ruining my palate. And like my palate opened up to the world, and I started working in the tasting room in the Napa Valley, working with wine and like tasting things for the first time, cheeses, fancy foods, and like really good fine dining restaurants and things that I didn't have to buy because I was just being brought to it at work. Basically, I learned I really like food. So like I'm a huge, what I would say, I would call it a foodie, I guess. Like I like good food. It's one of the few things that I'll shell out some money for if I feel like a place is worth it. I like cooking as well. I really enjoy cooking because I am poor, or I grew up poor. And so in order to enjoy what I like to enjoy, I very quickly had to learn how to do it myself. So I'm also a bit of a perfectionist with things. So that does work well when it comes to like cooking and things. But yeah, I personally feel like that when I quit smoking cigarettes and I found food, it was like one of those things. I didn't have Pokemon at the time. I really loved it. So like I was this close to getting my cheese certification. When I left
certification.
Yeah, I wanted to get the winery was going to pay for me to go up to Oregon and go to like this fancy American Cheese Association certification, because I did the food and wine pairings at my winery for years.
I didn't know that existed.
I did a decent job enough that they're like, hey, you want to get a certification, and like we'll pay for it, and whatever. And the pandemic made it so that couldn't happen, because during the pandemic the test got canceled, and like then I stopped working for the company eventually, so it just didn't happen. But like it was definitely something that I was really getting into, and like I would never want to do it as a job, but I'm very passionate also about food for sure.
Okay, yeah, I heard your Asian barbecue rant in the last podcast you had. So I think that was right, something like that. Asian barbecue. Yeah, you were ranting on it for like 2 days, the whole weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, I do love me some good food for sure. And that place, it was a Japanese barbecue spot. That place was
Japanese
legit.
barbecue. Yeah, okay. I know it was something like that. Yeah, RJ Gators, it goes way back. I don't know if they're even around anymore. But yeah, it was basic gator meat. Gator meat made to look like little chicken nuggets.
I would eat gator meat. I heard it's actually good if you deep fry it.
Yep, that's what we did. We deep fried it.
Anytime you have a weird meat, you deep fry it, it's gonna be fine. It's like rattlesnake too, is the same way.
Yep. Exactly. So even Chef knows about that one. Oh, here we go.
I never heard of that one. That's a deep cut, but I was never from that part.
Must have been frowned upon when you smell like that.
It's California, honestly.
It's all legal, man.
They're fine with everything but cigarettes out here. You can be anything you want, but you can't smell like cigarettes. So
he says, I think less of you now. Don't change for the women, man.
Especially not when it comes to death sticks,
Oh Lord, you guys are crazy. I love it.
It's funny. I feel like anyone who's out there who does smoke, they've gone through the trials and tribulations of quitting. I'm pretty sure I went through. I've been clean off of cigarettes I haven't touched one for almost 10 years now. But like I know it's a trial and tribulation for a lot of people. I know myself. I tried like 3 times, I think, before I really stuck with it. And to Walrus's point, I know he's making a joke or whatever. It was my fiance that was the reason why I think that last one stuck. Because if the other times I didn't have someone around like telling me like, hey, don't do this, So sometimes you need a little extra, kick for those good decisions.
That's right. Never helps or never hurts to have a little support. That's for sure. Let's jump over to one area that I was curious about. I was looking at your links, and I probably need to update the description after this conversation. I was always research who we're going to have on. So I'm looking at the links. A lot of your links are dead. You've disappeared off of eBay. Your website's dead. It goes to a domain that doesn't exist anymore. I'm like, what's going on here? So do you have some strategic plan in place? You just choose not to pay your bills, or
So my new eBay is probably not linked to my old link tree, which is something that I was told actually about a month ago, but I need to get on. I don't sell on eBay much these days anymore. When I left Whatnot, I transitioned to eBay for a short period of time for probably like 3 or 4 months, where I was doing the majority of my selling. For about a month of that time, it was on the account that was linked, the old card shop account on the link tree. But I very quickly realized that they were charging me about 18 point whatever percent, an extra like 5 or 6% on my normal fees. Because at a certain point in time, I had someone purchase from me one of my auctions, reach out to me on Instagram, say, hey, can I actually buy this off of eBay? And, you cancel my order. And I was like, sure, I'll give it to you for 10% less, saves the fees and then the shipping or whatever. And I was selling majority on Whatnot at the time. So I cancel their order out and I send the thing, whatever, think nothing of it. By the time I went back to my eBay, I went to start selling full time or whatever. I sold for like a month without realizing it. I was getting hit with the hugest fees. I was just thinking to myself, like, damn, this is what people deal with, not on Whatnot. These fees, this is incredible. They're dealing with 20% fees. I can't believe that they can survive doing that. Well, I quickly realized that it was because my account had a strike on it from when I had essentially canceled out an auction and sold it off of eBay. I could have done it in a way that wouldn't have gotten me a strike, but it was so long ago in the past that it was past the 30-day mark that they use as like they're deciding for when they can add or remove feedback or remove a strike on your account. So they basically told me I had to ride it out until the next 3 months, when there'd be like some sort of like a check-in on the account, like an automated check-in, and then they reassess the health of the account. So like you have to keep selling with that huge fee on top of it for like 3 months. So I said, fuck that. I've started a new eBay, and I'll just have the regular no feedback and regular fees for 3 months. By the time that fee goes back to normal on the other account, I'll be probably above and beyond. And so so I have a new eBay now. My new eBay is called Selling Bags. And I do I sell the majority on that eBay, but I don't sell a lot anymore on it because I do all of it locally now. So like all of my sales are cash sales, majority at local shows, because I now every single weekend I go to a different location within an hour of me here in California, and I do a 2-day show, sometimes a 1-day show. And by the time I get back, I just don't want to go and list the slabs that I have extra that didn't sell at the show, and then delist the ones that did sell. And the first time that you're at a local show and you double sell something, you sell something online that you sold locally, you'll very quickly, you'll be like, done. I'm done with that shit. And so like, because then you get another hit on your account, your eBay account, when you do that, because it looks bad. And you get and then I'm in the same position I was with my first account. So that's why I'm not very active on my eBay these days. But I do have another eBay. It's called Selling Bags. My website I discontinued in the beginning of the year. It costs about 200 bucks to host a website on Wix and do all the extra domain and all the extra stuff. And it just, the amount of sales I was getting through the website were so minuscule that I didn't find it was worth actually having a real domain or website. So I did shut that one down too. So that's just off to the wind. That's not going to happen anymore. But
update your links, man.
So basically I don't use the online sales channels because I don't like the fees associated with it. I know that the fees are not that scary, but it's also, how do I put this? When I have to sell a card like Hidden Fates, the stained glass PSA 10 Hidden Fates birds on eBay, that's like a $50 card. It's like $49.99 shipped. That's with like shipping and fees and everything. At a show, it's like a $60 card with no shipping and no fees and no anything. So like my incentive to want to sell things online when I have an avenue to actually sell it for more and not have fees is like so much greater. So for the most part, I've just been focusing a lot more on my local in-person sales and stuff.
Yeah, there we go. 1099. Walrus then called in the IRS. That's it. We're done here.
Oh man, Walrus, you can get muted so fast with that.
Which I think this is a good transition because we can go over now to Collecticons, because based on what I'm watching, it's really been your primary focus, and you've already really confirmed that. So let's dive into Collecticons a little bit. Not too much, because you talk about it a lot. I don't want to make you repeat things, but let's talk about just a few things. What's your strategy and approach kind of going into a Collecticon? And does that really change depending on where you go? So if you were going to share this kind of for that first person trying to sell, what would that strategy be stepping into a Collecticon?
So for me, every single Collecticon, I have the exact same strategy. Where the part that I get into it before I ever go to the Collecticon is like, I look at the location and I decide if I'm even going to go there or not. So like once I decide that I like the location and I think it has potential timing wise and like the event looks good, I have the same exact approach to every single live show that I do. And it's worked really well for me. And it's just this basically. I come prepared for literally anybody to walk in front of me. So like I go to these conventions not knowing who's going to be there. I know there's going to be a ton of people who love Pokemon. I know there's going to be a ton of people who are looking to buy collectibles. That's the only thing I know though. So I usually try to bring a wide swath of a bunch of generally popular Pokemon to have in both my graded case, my raw selection, and I oftentimes always try to have some sort of a gambler, like, you know, like a chance, like a mystery bags, mystery boxes, booster packs, vintage box that you can buy a pack of something that if you feel like, you know, if you feel like being there in the moment and being present and gambling a little bit with your money and trying to like open a vintage pack or open a mystery pack and like double, triple your money, or you just want to waste some money basically, because that's what Collecticons oftentimes people like to do. I always have something like that too. So I bring three key elements. I bring sealed, usually, or mystery packs. Those are like my gamblers premium section. If you're feeling a little chancy, that's what you go for. And then I have my singles section, which is like raw gradable singles or raw binder cards. They're like cheaper, under $20, or really nice singles that I keep in like top loaders or card savers, and I put prices on them. I keep them out nicely. And those are for people who like to grade their own cards, because oftentimes you'll see people who don't ever buy graded cards, but they like to grade cards and they like graded cards. They just know that you should grade raw cards. So I get a lot of stuff raw. I have that at my table for those types of people. And then I always have my graded cases. The graded cases, I think lately haven't been really as great as they have been in the past few years. But they're important for the image of the actual table, because I think it brings people over to see. People like to see what you have in your graded case. Even if they're not going to buy, they like to see a couple things like laid out nicely, see your selection of things. I have some meme cards, like my PSA 1 section that I always have in my case that people come to me that I'm known for. So like they come to see the memes and then they buy a couple potentially because like, I guess I'll buy one. It's funny, you know, I like you're the only one here with it. So like I have the strategy to always come prepared so that you never know who's going to walk in front of you, but no matter who's in front of you, you can help something. You have something for them. Exactly.
Yeah. Here we go. Coming soon. Josh's table at Collecticon. Mystery pack inside of a bag, inside of a mystery box.
You never know what's inside a box. It could be a boat. It could be a boat inside the mystery bag. You don't know. It's a mystery.
You know what you should do? And actually, I might try it one day. You actually have a box where you can put your hand in it, and you just let them sift around with a bunch of just slabs inside of there. You just have to pick a random slab, and they can see on the front which slabs are in there, and just pick a random slab by sticking your hand in the box. I bet you people will love it. Give it a try. Let me know.
Good way of like getting cracked corners and like little
exactly right.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be able to sell it anyways. Yeah, if you even look at his direction, you're getting talked to.
And that's my other strategy is I just Thrifty's joking, but she's serious too. I'm a hawker. I'm a salesman. Like you cannot go to a Collecticon and stand behind a table and just stand there passively and hope people will walk up to you, because there are hundreds of other tables there with people standing there passively. And there are people like me who are literally yelling at you when you walk by, being like, "Hey, what's up? What's your favorite Pokemon? Come over here. I've got one." Yeah, literally, I will point you down. If you make eye contact with me walking by my booth within 20 feet, not even in front of my booth. Now,
hilarious.
if you're in my friends section, unless you're Thrifty or, if you're Ray, I'll probably be respectful. But if you're Thrifty or Ray and you're next to me, if your customer makes eye contact with me, I'm sorry. What do you want me to do? I'm a machine. I can't turn it off. I can't stop. It just comes out naturally. What do you want? You want me to turn this thing off? I can't do that. So I apologize in advance. I try my best for anyone else except for Ray and Thrifty, though.
There was a Big Bang Theory episode where there was this doctor, and if the girl touched his arm for 2 Mississippis, he brought her flowers and thought they were getting married. That's Josh at a Collecticon. They looked at me for 2 Mississippis. Like, what do you want me to do?
Seriously, if they make eye contact with me, I'm gonna ask them their favorite Pokemon. My hand's gonna be in their wallet. It's already gonna be halfway to a Venmo or a PayPal transaction, and they're probably sending it to friends and family because we're friends at that point. We're friends. We're basically family. They made eye contact.
Well, I guess we know why your doppelganger didn't come across your table. That's why he avoided you, right?
He must have felt the energy, because I'll tell you what, that guy, he didn't have the same energy as me, okay? That Magikarp hat guy did not have the same energy as this Magikarp hat guy. I'll tell you, after 2 or 3 days of traveling, he's not still going to be yelling at people at the top of his lungs. Well, he might be, but I just
we'll have to see. We don't know. We don't know.
Rest in peace to my Mew sweatshirt, because that purple sweatshirt I was wearing after the convention, I went outside and I took it off and I set it down somewhere and I forgot where I left it. So rest in peace to that purple. So if anyone saw me at that Denver Collecticon, I love that sweatshirt. You guys saw me at the last part with that beautiful sweatshirt.
If you picked it up, anybody, and give it back to him. He's already had his card stolen once. We don't want to lose a sweatshirt if we can help it. So tell me, top 3 things to do in a Collecticon for that newcomer.
First thing you got to do is walk the room. You have to walk the room and not buy a single thing. And I know that's going to sound really hard. And it's also going to go against what sometimes you hear people say. They say, when you see a good deal, take it right then. But if it's your very first Collecticon and you've never been there before, you got to see the sights, because it's a big, big Collecticon. Like, I stopped walking the room. Like, I do a quick little walkthrough, but I don't do a whole walk around now, because when you've been to 1, when you've been to 5, when you've been to 10, you've kind of been to them all. You see the same vendors and stuff. But if you've never been, you got to take it all in, and you really have to take your time with it. So the first thing you do is you go in. You put your wallet deep in your purse or your pockets so that you can't get it, and you walk around the whole room. You just kind of browse, you look around, you take note of the things that you like, and you try to get there early if you can, but it's not a huge deal if you don't. I guess, and then after that, second is you got to go back to the places that you really like. So after that is you go back to the places that you made mental note of, and then you go and buy those things. You don't wait until the end of the second day after you've done the walk around, you've moseyed around. That's when you make your purchases, is after you've done your initial walk around. So maybe that's the first thing you do, is you go walk around and then you do your purchasing right away. But I think the biggest mistake people make is they walk right in and they buy at the first booth that they go to,
right?
Because they see something really cool and that they'd never seen before. Trust me, it's Collecticon. You're going to see all kinds of cool shit that you've never seen before. And they instantly run out of money halfway through. Like I had a budget. So we had a budget for our So my fiance usually stays behind in the Collecticons. Like she'll go, but she'll only go for an hour or 2 or whatever. She hadn't been to one in a while, and we were going to Disneyland afterwards. And we had like a budget for merchandise for Disneyland that we set aside money for. She walked literally halfway through Collecticon and blew the entire budget for Disneyland. Just walking through. And then later on, we went to the other side of Collecticon, and we saw more stuff that she was like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have blown our budget on the stuff on the other side. I like this stuff more. And that, I promise you, will happen to you too. So it's not dig anyone. This is just very real. Don't spend your money all at the first place you go to, because I promise you there will be cool things.
And Walrus has a comment there. So take the deal if it's from our section. The price to sell, baby. They want to come back, they're gone. That's right. That's right.
It's true. And you never know where you're going to get those Unagaba Eevees. I know they're really rare. I know the whole section is fighting for the price on those Unagabas.
I love it. All right. So then if we look back at your business, though, I think you still have distribution, because you've talked very fondly of your distributor over the course of the past years. So you have one or multiples in terms of distribution?
I have the same distributor that I've had since I first started using him, when like Darkness Ablaze came out. I still buy Modern, even though I don't have much of an outlet to rip it. I ironically sold like 40 something packs today on TikTok, because I just started selling on TikTok recently. So if anyone in the chat wants to go and support me there, you can probably get the best deals you'll be able to find on TikTok with their crazy coupons and deals. Literally, it started with me being at a show a few weeks ago and hearing the person across from me tell the people in front of him that if they want the item that he has right there for $20 less, they can buy it on their TikTok and have him ship it to them. And they were right in front of him at a show. He's like, look, you can buy it from me here for $100, but I can give it to you for $80 on my TikTok if you just let me ship it to you and use their coupons instead. And so when I was doing the math on that, listening to the person across the way from me say that to their customer, I was like, okay, hold up. This is ridiculous. I got to get on this TikTok shit. So I can offer better deals on all of my items than I can on TikTok, than I can in real life selling them right now, because the fees are so low. The coupons that they're offering to their buyers are so good, and they offer free shipping, subsidized shipping on all orders. So it's like, it's not even really a question for me. Like, do I want to sell things on TikTok? It's like, not really, but should I be selling on TikTok? Absolutely. So that's what I started doing.
Okay. I didn't realize it was quite that good.
The fees are 5% to sell on, and this is not like proprietary. Like, anyone can sell if you make your seller account. Fees on PayPal are 3%, and they don't use PayPal, so they get around the PayPal fees. They direct deposit to your bank, and so they charge a flat 5% fee, and they subsidize free shipping on pretty much all your cards. I don't know if it's like this for like really heavy things, but I know for cards it's all free shipping. So it's crazy. Like, eBay can't beat that. Whatnot can't compete with that. They're like 14%, like, and then the PayPal processing, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
And I think they're very aggressive now because they just launched it all. I mean, that won't last forever, but yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Yeah, agree.
Yeah. So to your point, I think what they're doing is TikTok is in a very aggressive state of customer acquisition right before the holidays. And so right before the holidays, they just started their new their online shop system that you can actually use to buy things. They're attracting a ton of sellers by offering all these really aggressive campaigns to get their customers to make accounts and then come onto their platform, get familiarized with the platform, be ready to use it before Black Friday. And they're going to then offer some other Black Friday type crazy stuff when that happens to get even more customer acquisition. So that then when the holidays are here, they're primed to basically put all of their competition, Amazon, eBay, Whatnot, Drip. They're like, Whatnot? What? Who? That's what they're saying, basically, like straight up. So I think they're doing a good job with that. And it probably won't last forever, but I think it'll last longer than people think, because they're out for blood. I think they're out for blood to put their other competition
for sure.
just out.
Well, I mean, you can combine wine and Pokemon cards, but if you combine Latin Booty and Pokemon cards, according to Walrus, I mean, it's.
I've not fallen into the feed. So I've been learned at this point that you can actually mute TikTok when it opens up, because I don't know how the feed works. And it feels like whenever I don't know. Did you guys ever go to like, when you were at the end of your, you went to college? Did you? Okay. At the end of your college days, did you ever go to like the freshman parties, like the parties with the younger, but you were like one of the older? It feels like you're walking into a room and you're like the oldest person in there, and you're like, this is not cool. Like, so like, I can't do the TikTok feed. I feel way too old. I feel like I'm a boomer. And like, when it's on my feed, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I just got to swipe away. So I haven't dealt with any of the feed stuff yet, but I'm trying to figure it out. So
yeah, be careful. Be careful. It is a spiral. Yeah. I would say that no, my college days were the uninformed and kind of less probably lively ones. It was after the military, after I came out, then I went to the typical college, and I was the old guy in college. So yeah, too late for me. Oh Lord, you guys are going crazy here.
So you went later. So you were always that guy. So
I was always the old guy.
You know
I'm the old guy right now.
So yeah, that's why I don't even deal with it. So I don't interact with the feed part. So I'm probably safe for the time being. But once I start discovering like the Pokemon feeds and like how to actually figure out the food stuff, like, you know, the foodie blogs or whatever.
Josh on TikTok. I don't know what business means, but I have some
Lost Origin. Yeah. I don't know what bussin' means at all. Yeah, but I do have. I wouldn't be selling Lost Origin right now, but I got Scarlet and Violet for sale.
Scarlet and Violet. Okay.
Lost Origin's a hold for me right now. I'm a big Lost Origin fan.
I was going to ask you, with distribution and products still coming in, I mean, you got to be stockpiling up on your inventory. It's got to become a problem pretty quickly, especially with whatnot being an outlet or not being an outlet anymore. TikTok sounds like it might start to help you a little bit, but you're not exactly ripping packs there, are you? You're selling sealed packs, right? So
yeah, I haven't ventured into the like live ripping. I'm really not that interested in rip and shipping anymore, because like the profit margin for the time and effort that goes into it is so little that like, I don't know. I don't like ripping packs so much that I do it for like a quarter a pack. And that's basically what the reality is. But I do like selling packs and selling sealed product, because it's like passive. I can do other stuff and like not have to be just straight up sitting in front of my chair, yelling at the screen, telling you, let's go. All right, you got a Charizard V, just the regular one. That's a Charizard. You know, it gets tiring.
Was that you?
It's just
was that you and whatnot? Is that what you did?
A bit of an exaggeration, but more or less, I mean, every streamer, even the ones that are like supposedly the like down to earth ones, let me just put it this way. If you have someone who's giving you their hard-earned money, and they're giving you their time, and they're watching you buy the pack that they bought into, I feel bad not giving them that experience, because that's what you want. Let's put it this way. If I weren't doing that, and instead I was like, oh, you got a Slakoth V from Pokemon Go. Well, that's shit. I was like, that's a disappointing. And I sat there and I told him how I really felt. And I wasn't just like, oh, cool, Slakoth V, let's go, it's a hit. Like, there's a difference between being overly positive and just straight up, you know, being a little bit positive and then being real with someone. Like, you don't want someone who's giving you their hard-earned money to have a bad experience to the point where they feel bad and you're doing that to them. Listen, if they bought a pack from you for $5 and they get a shitty V card as their hit, they know what they did. They don't need you to sit there and shame them and be like, ooh, this is not the best card. They know it's not the best freaking card in the set. They're happy that you're happy for them. So yeah, you kind of have to do that if you want to be a successful streamer. Otherwise, customers aren't going to come back to you. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you're going to go buy from the guy." You know, they're gonna not want to buy from you again. You know, because you're the lame guy who doesn't get excited when they pull something. So I mean,
and apparently the Zoomers there can point you out real quick with your old 420 and 69 jokes.
Yeah, I mean, my humor goes back to Newgrounds and the early internet days of the early 2000s. So you're definitely going to be able to see me a mile away. I'm over 30 years old, so I don't belong on TikTok, but here I am.
Yeah, well, that's all right, man. Like I said, I'm still the oldest one probably in the room, so it's all right.
And I personally think that the thing about Pokemon that I find that was always more, and it's more that Pokemon Go, I feel like I've started feeling this way about it. Pokemon has such a wide, like, it's so attractive to so many different types of people, so many different age groups. Because like it's not just the kids, it's their parents too. And then their grandparents like it because it's cute and they notice their grandkids enjoy it and then they can enjoy it together, but then they stay enjoying it. Because like I played Pokemon Go with so many old people, like what I mean legitimately like retired, like straight up 60-year-old people, because they had time to go out and raid and do that stuff, and I played it with 20-year-olds, who are literally working their service jobs and doing it with all their free time. And it was just like Pokemon has that ability to bring those different groups together, unlike a lot of different things, I feel like.
Agreed. Yeah, that's how we were doing it. I've told the story a few times, but yeah, my kids playing is how I got in, and I of course got sucked in, much like yourself. So late to the party. Good to see you, Nav Station. Thanks for joining, man. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about your liquidity strategy. So in the business, you obviously want to keep a decent amount of cash available for whatever the case may be. How do you plan your inventory, what you have on hand in terms of, whether it's from your distributor or you're buying out collections versus what you have in cash ready to buy at any given moment? What's your strategy there?
Yeah, it's always moving. It's always really a moving target and a moving strategy when it comes to that sort of situation, because it depends on the time of year, what's coming out, what's coming down the pipeline that I want to like plan for. Oftentimes in this hobby, there are opportunities that pop up just like that, like on a dime, and you need to really have the ability to make a decision and make a lot of those snap. We're looking at the Van Gogh Pikachus. We're looking at like the things that just the flash in the pan that happen that you kind of have to just be there at the right time in the right place. But that's not really ever been my strategy to really utilize and focus on those types of events to really build my business. Those are just things that if I'm there for the right time, great. Liquidity, I can plan out what I need to make purchases for, like PSA orders you put in, you have months in advance to have to pay off those invoices for the grading fees, before you even know that they're grading. You'll be 4 steps in before they even give you a notification. And so like you have the way to plan your liquidity for those types of things. So for when it comes to PSA, it doesn't really blindside you so much. When it comes to like new sets coming out from like a distributor, like that kind of thing happens cyclically, in advance when it's what you're going to take. I have regular amounts that I typically take. So I kind of have a ballpark of the amount of money that I spend per set just based on my history. And so like I know what amount I need to have for the most part at all times. There are times, of course, like I said, where you need the extra liquidity. And like right now, if I needed like a whole bunch of extra liquidity, I'm all loaded up on Pokemon 151 for my distributor, and and a lot of my allocation for my future liquidity is allocated towards buying more because I like that and Crown Zenith. So like right now, I wouldn't be positioned to really buy a ton, and I'm not really liquid right now because the future is already planned ahead, and I already know that I'm going to be buying more of a certain product, and so I'm not probably going to take those flashes in the pan. And when it comes to like this hobby, it's more important. I think it's less important to be like the most liquid person in the hobby and have like unlimited amounts of money. While that helps, that's great. I think it's more important to have a plan and a focus and really not fall for the FOMO when those things do happen, and don't let it throw you off your plan. So I guess I just would say that everyone's a little different. Personally, I deal with it because most of my set releases are planned out in advance. I can kind of plan that sort of thing out, and it just depends on the part of the year. Like I will say though, at the end of the year, I'm far more likely to dump a lot more product just to kind of sell a lot like every other business, you know, to try to get as much off the books as you can and then prepare for the next year. So I always end up selling a lot more than I would like to typically this time of year, and selling it for usually a little less than I would like because there's a lot more competition. And I'm not in a position where I can't not sell. So like, you know, it's just the nature of the time of year.
Right. Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense.
But
Especially
other
when running
businesses,
it month to month.
if you can be liquid right now when people like me aren't liquid and other businesses are dumping because they're also kind of not liquid, it's a really advantageous place to be for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, especially coming into some of these big sales and holiday seasons, it's a
great
time to buy
for under $40, man. You're gonna see ETBs
Yeah,
like 30s.
I saw. I think Alex's post today from Nostalgia Nomics. I think they had one in there for $30 for a case. You know, buy a case of ETBs. All right. So then, tell me, what does it look like for you to weather the storm? I mean, obviously, it's quite difficult just to run month to month. Make sure you keep the sales coming in. How do you weather the storm? So let's take the first 3 sets we've had now with Scarlet and Violet. That probably hasn't sold the best for you. You probably didn't have a massive amount of inventory from Sword and Shield. So how do you weather the storms for, you know, these 3-6 months when it's a dry period like that?
Yeah, luckily I have a really good relationship with my distributor to the point where the last 2 sets, both the Charizard set, I don't even know what it's
Obsidian
called.
Flames.
Obsidian Flame. Yeah, I didn't even buy it, so I don't even know what it's called. Or Paradox Rift, I didn't buy. I instead see behind this box right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a Crown Zenith premium collection. I've been buying more Crown Zenith premium collection and 3-pack blisters, which are the little boxes that have like 36 packs in them, and then the 3 starters and the pins and stuff. I've been buying those instead of my allocation of the last 2 Scarlet and Violet sets. That changed with 151, and I finally went back to buying actual modern Scarlet and Violet Pokemon. Yeah. But as far as like that's how I have been able to weather it, because I actually will just hold a lot of the Crown Zenith. And like I said, I've been planning to do that anyway. So that's part of my strategy. So like, I've just been taking a little bit less from the modern stuff, except for when it came to 151, which I just took as much as I could get. And so my strategy is just basically to not buy it. I hate to say it, like it sounds bad. Like you want to hear like someone like me who does this full time, or someone who deals with a lot of Pokemon, give you confidence as like a holder or buyer. And like, I'm sure there are people out there on YouTube who give that kind of confidence, but like, I would not be buying early Scarlet and Violet era sealed product right now. And I'm actively not buying it from a distributor. And it's just really rough for me to be able to like recommend other people do. So like, it's not my personal strategy. That's all. So yeah, to weather the storm, I will say, hopefully the storm doesn't go on that much longer. I've been doing this since I was like 8 years old in the hobby, with some time in between where I'd get out of it. So I probably will never leave like cards ever. But as far as like doing it full time, if, you know, it doesn't, I don't say, if the market stays the same, it would be fine. It'd be great. Honestly, if it stays the same, it'd be fantastic. But if it goes down and continues to go down, another 2-3 years, it may not be as feasible for as many people to be able to do it full time as easily as I was able to do, or continue to be able to do as I am right now. So I would basically say that weathering the storm right now is fine, but give it a couple more years. And I think there's already a lot of stores going under. Like you see Rudy Alpha Investments making videos about it, how stores are going under and everything. And the thing is, when a store goes under, there's not a big announcement that's made. Like when I stop selling Pokemon, I'm not going to be like, hey guys, it's that time. I failed. I'm back to the grind at Wendy's. And no store is going to do that. It's a quiet thing. You know, it's not something anyone's proud of. It's not something you want to. So you won't hear about it really often when that happens, but it happens, and it has been happening. People who are virtue signaling, saying, no, the market's really strong. Those people are lying, and it is strong in certain segments, but it is also showing signs of weakness. So
yeah, definitely see a lot of drops for sure. Some things holding, but definitely a lot of drops in the past several months for sure, I would say.
Like as a store, as a game store, what can you buy from distribution right now that's going to make you money, and what can you buy in enough quantity that is making money that you're not, so something like One Piece, a new set comes out, you're instantly allocated to 5-6 booster boxes or whatever. That's when it's the most expensive. And then when you can finally get it 6 months later, nobody wants it. The prices come down or whatever. So like, what can you buy from distribution as a game store to really just make money, unless you're really creative? So like, it's a rough time for a lot of game stores unless you already have a really established market. You know, you have a good system put out, or you're just lucky or something. I don't know.
I would have to agree with you, Retro. I'm still strong on my eBay sales, but I guess if you look at individual cards, they may not be selling at peak prices. That's probably the key difference. Things are still moving for sure, though. That's what I'm seeing as well. The Comic K, if you need to get liquid because Pikachu promos or jumbos from the VMAX collection, Josh, just hit me up. All right.
He's been following. He must have been spying on me because I have a huge stack of those promos from just boxes I broke down because I was using them for packs for storing, because those boxes are huge. The Pikachu VMAX boxes.
Oh yeah.
Gigantic and awkward.
It was like 4 packs. Yeah, it was terrible.
I think they're 5 packs or something. It's not even worth shipping. It's really not.
Yeah. Market prices are down, but things are still moving. Agreed.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you kind of got, like, things are moving. So like, you can sell anything. It's just you might not like the price that you're gonna get for it. That's the thing. So like, I'm waiting for James to pop in and say everything sells in an auction. You know, because that's what I hear.
That's a forced sale. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. All right, so now you know what's coming. If you don't, then enjoy the ride. So we're going to do a section of the podcast where we do rapid fire questions. Okay, so in this section, what I'll do is it's name the PokeTuber. I'm going to give a small little description, and you name the PokeTuber that comes to your mind that fits that description.
Oh, no.
You ready?
I mean, as ready as I'll ever be.
Yeah. All right. Best entertainer.
PokeRev.
Most memorable.
Damn, that's a good one. Leonhardt, I think.
Okay. I can only take so much.
Leonhardt, I think.
I wish I could get more.
Kanto Capital.
Best looking. And you can't say yourself.
I'll get in trouble if I say that. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be married soon. I can't say something like that, right? Oh, actually, hold on. I can.
Okay.
Ray, I hate you, but you're a sexy motherfucker.
There we go. All right. The most intelligent.
Rudy.
Tallest.
Dan.
I knew it. Makes you laugh more than anyone else.
Probably Rudy.
Okay. Most recent unsub.
Do I have to say?
No, we can skip it. Next to leave the hobby.
Oh wow. You want me to hurt people, don't you?
Not at all. We can skip that one too.
I don't want to say that'll hurt. That's hurt. I don't want to hurt anyone.
All right. No worries. Most up and coming PokeTuber.
Now that's an interesting one because I would have said Pat Flynn a year ago. But it's been a long time and he's not up and coming anymore. I just don't watch a lot of Pokemon Wonder. You're one of my newest subs that I feel like an up and comer that I really, really like, actually. I haven't actually added a ton of new people that I found were, so you are actually one of my favorites and up and coming.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Most chill.
I want to say Dan is really chill, just because he's just like always speaking in such like monotone, like mellow, like really slow. Like I could literally be talking to Dan about the most exciting thing in the world, but I could almost at the same time. He's so chill, you know. So love you, Dan.
Okay. Most obsessed in the hobby.
Obsessed, like the most obsessed,
about
Pokemon knowledge. The dude literally eats, sleeps, and breathes. Like right now, he's frothing at the mouth because he can't be live because he's taking care of his. Like I think he loves taking care of his kids, but like he's frothing at the mouth because he can't be live right now.
I saw when he came back after being sick, he had so many things on his mind. He couldn't wait to make lives every single day.
Yeah, literally.
He's a machine.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're gonna switch it up now to some general things. So to try to answer these questions with just a couple of words, okay? 1 to 3 words, whatever you can answer with. Most money you've ever lost in a transaction, single transaction.
Dude, I've lost so much. In a large transaction, though, probably about $600.
Tough. Favorite set you've ever opened personally?
Sandstorm.
Okay. Didn't expect that one. Most important takeaway from your involvement in the Pokemon hobby?
As with life, it's all about the connections you make.
I knew you were going to say that one. Maximum revenue you think you will ever hit in a single year?
If I could ever hit $1 million, I feel like I would consider that being successful. I know that once I do hit that, I'm gonna feel the exact, because more money, more problems. But
right.
But if I could make like profit, like not,
gross,
that would be
right? Yeah. Okay. What you hate most about the Pokemon hobby?
Uncertainty in time.
Okay. Most recent play or flip?
I just buy today. I just bought about $400 of tag teams on TCG Player.
You might have been the guy that bought me out of all my XY stuff not that long ago.
I haven't gotten to XY yet, so you're safe.
Okay.
You're safe. Yeah.
Okay. Best Collecticon to attend as a seller?
As a seller?
As a seller.
Orlando.
As a buyer?
# not Dallas.
Strange quirk about you that nobody knows in the Pokemon community?
I've won medals in both fencing and wrestling, so I like combat sports.
Nice. Never would have guessed. I like it. Now, this one is the last one in this area, so feel free to elaborate if you want to. Your fondest memory in the Pokemon hobby?
This is one I talk about a lot. It's one of my first memories in the Pokemon hobby, but I was growing up, and the Christmas that Super Smash Brothers came out, and the Neo Genesis first edition also came out the same time. I got a stocking with half of a booster box with 18 boosters in one stocking, and my cousin got the other 18 boosters in her stocking, and we woke up and we opened up all those packs and played Super Smash Brothers for the first time ever that Christmas. And that was probably my best Pokemon moment. And I always look back on that. So like, I love Neo Genesis first edition because of that moment specifically.
I love that. I love that. Having a half a booster box in your stocking must have been a great Christmas to wake up to. You gotta tell me, I've been seeing this through the chat. What is this 86s? Wait.
Is it 86ing like when you're like, get out, you got to get out?
Okay, that reference. Okay, I got you. Okay. All right. Yeah, I've been seeing it drip throughout the entire conversation here in
I
the
never
chat.
leave. Yeah, I will stay. I'm a talker. I will talk your ear off.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. That's why we're here. We're here to talk. Let's go to some big brain stuff. This is be fun, I think, to do with you because you kind of navigate wherever we want to go mentally, and we can challenge each other and be a little bit fun. So, one of the things I was curious about from your perspective is the softening of the market. We touched it just a little bit already. We see prices dropping. As you already pointed out, you're on kind of the downslope of where you jumped in, which was on the upslope. What do you see in the market right now, especially with you being on the floor at a lot of local events? That's going to give you a lot more personal touch to the people. What's your perspective on the current market status?
I think that a lot of people who are in the hobby right now are really excited to be in it. And I think it's a really good place to be as like a buyer. But I also think that there's a lot of people who are like selling and also who got out or getting out of the hobby because of their entrance being in a less opportune time. So in my experience from like live selling and selling in person, I do a lot better with like singles. And I feel like there's a lot of people who actually do buy and they're collecting like singles of the new sets, even the new Scarlet and Violet sets, but less people buying graded cards like from me in person and more interested in actually collecting. So I do feel like the market, while it has like softened from what I would say it was at earlier points, I still feel like there's more people in the market,
Right.
and there are still more people getting into it, more than there were in 2019 when I entered. So like it's kind of hard. Like I know that on one hand it's like softened, but it's hard to sit here and really say it's softened that much when there's still a bunch of people more interested. Like let's just say I'm way more happy to be in Pokemon than I am to be in like Magic the Gathering right now. Like there are not new people hopping into
Right.
Magic every day, like being, oh, I want to collect every card in the set. Like most people probably don't even know the new set that's going to be out. I'm ingrained in Magic and I don't know the new set that's going to come out, you know?
I
So
don't know for sure.
yeah, so I do
Okay.
think that the market's softening to a point where people aren't buying graded cards as much and like the hype is over, but there's still a lot of like really, really dedicated people who I think have at least a few months to a year before they dip out and do other things and then come back. Like the nature of Pokemon collecting has never been like be a long haul
Consistent.
collector, be like stick with it and like abandon all your other things in life and stick with through the Pokemon through the thick and thin. Because if you stick with it through those thin parts, no, like if you don't like Pokemon, get the fuck out. Like that's kind of how, and then get back in when you're ready for it. Like it's not about like being like, unless you are like a business like me, where I do think about those things, which is a legitimate question, you know, in those cases. But for the vast majority of people, like you're gonna get in and out of it. You're gonna start collecting a set and you're gonna get halfway through and you're gonna lose interest. And when you start realizing it's probably not worth your time and effort to finish it, and then you're gonna come back to it in 2 years when that new exciting set catches your eye again, or when your kid gets old enough to start enjoying it or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like it is what it is. I do think that it's a different time now than it ever was in other parts of the hobby. And it's like that's not saying anything because it's always a different time, but I do think that the market is going to do okay as long as we still see people collecting binder sets and new people getting in who aren't like watching YouTube or just doing the normal thing, you know?
Well, I think that's a perfect segue because I spoke about this with Danny as well, and I saw it when I went to the regionals here in Charlotte. The number of people going to these regional events is extraordinarily larger than it probably ever has been in terms of previous years. So the number of players that are jumping in, especially players in the Masters division, is huge. So I definitely think that shows to the growth of the hobby overall. To your point. But maybe we'll see where that trends over the next couple of years as well. Then from there, how do you think we best contribute to keep the hobby at its healthiest for all of the people that are engaged in it? So us here some of the people here in the chat, how do we contribute to keep the hobby at its best? What do we do?
I would feel like the best thing that anyone can do is like a content creator is try to like find something that you love and that you enjoy, that you feel like is worth your time doing, and just do it. Like it's hard to say what that would be, right? Like, because I have found that I've done different things in the hobby. Like when I first started selling, before I ever started live selling, when I was just working for the winery and doing it part-time, I had another streamer that I sold to from my distributor. He didn't have distribution. I would be a middleman. I'd just buy cases and I'd sell it for him. So I never streamed, but I just make a couple bucks doing that on the side. And that was sort of my interaction with the hobby. But that's obviously changed now. So I think that it always changes. But as long as you do something that you like, feel like is worth your time, that's right. What's important. Because like no one can tell you what's worth your time but you. But if you feel like you're doing something that's worth the time, then that's probably worth it. Probably helping the hobby too.
Yeah, and I look at that, in terms of every transaction that we have, every touch point we have. Our neighbors and our kids, I should say, in the neighborhood come over and they play and, oh, hey, you like Pokemon? So yeah, so give them some packs. And I have a binder that we had bought out and had some. Hey, take this binder and put these cards in there, and you can start your collection. And starting that new journey for them is I think is a huge contribution. And then when it comes to the business side of it, really making sure you give the best service, try to be fair price, deliver with quality, make people smile along the way, have these great conversations to add on to that, and share the love of Pokemon. I think that's the best way we can do it. And for those who enjoy it, who catch that and they like it, then of course they spread that with somebody else, and it goes on and on. Perfect. So then talk a little bit now on the personal side. So, Pokemon definitely has been a big part of your life. What would you say has been some either positive or negative impacts it's had on you personally?
One of the things that I'm very grateful for, that often I think about more lately than I did before in the pandemic, was like how many opportunities Pokemon's offered to me to just travel. And so that's another reason I love doing collecticons, is like I never got to travel before growing up, really, or even like I never had a reason to travel. Working for the winery, it was like a stationary job. I would do conventions for once or twice a year, maybe with a couple other coworkers, but it wasn't like a regular thing. So like being able to travel and go to these crazy places and meet these and just being in these surreal situations, like because of Pokemon, feels like that's kind of the benefit that I never would have thought would have been, something that I got to do. So I find myself thankful for that, like being able to travel because of it. So like if nothing else, if I got nothing else out of like the years that I'm in Pokemon, except for getting to travel to these different cities and do collecticons and meet different people from all over the world and have those experiences, I would still consider that to be a somewhat like of a win, just from traveling and then, getting my basic needs met and enjoying what I'm doing along the way and everything. But there's more to it than that. But that alone is definitely
top ones.
It's a really cool thing. Yeah. As far as like a negative, I find that when I quit my job, and I stopped working for someone else, I thought that would allow me freedom, or that would allow me like more time or more whatever. And it feels like that for the first 6 weeks, probably, but it doesn't. I'd say the biggest negative of like doing Pokemon and doing it full time is that I now work so much more than I ever did when I ever worked for someone else.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it doesn't feel like it's for as big of a payoff directly. You tell yourself that later on down the road, a lot of it's a payoff, but a lot of it's a grind, so that's one, and it's more of a grind than you ever realize, even going in knowing that, when you go and start your own business and start working from home, that you're going to work more than you did working for someone else. Like, you have to know that, but do you really know it until you do it? I don't think you do.
Yeah.
I don't think so. So that's one small negative is I work a lot. Like one of my best friends is getting married in a couple weeks. And I think I was talking to her the other day about it, and about me working came up, and like the wedding is during a big show, like one of the biggest shows of the year, and she felt bad. I was like, don't feel bad, it's fine. Like
it's your wedding.
I was like, it is what it is. Like she's like, no, but you can't choose, like that's like how you make money. And I was like, I get that, but you work a lot when you have your own business, and you don't have the ability to call out from work, or like when a wedding's happening, you can't just be like, oh, let my coworkers handle that. You know what I mean? And like,
right.
Yeah,
well, and it goes back to the previous point. If you're going to solve that problem, then you start to get into scale employees, which then brings a different problem, right? And say, well, if I want to take off, then I need somebody to run this. Well, now you're going to need to deal with that. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. And that same trouble, as you alluded to, happens with any business. You always are going to work more if you're going to be successful in a business that you own versus somebody else you work for. So if you want simplicity, go work for a paycheck. For sure. Your personality, as I watch through your video, your content, this conversation, even, your personality definitely tends to resonate, around a sense of humor and comedy. That just kind of comes out of you naturally. Where does that come from?
I was always into like speech and debate, and acting, and making like video production, and making little shorts. And I was that kid with those other kids in high school and community college, and with my friends growing up. Even not when it came to school projects, we just do it for fun. So like I was always I didn't like the editing as much, as you can tell from a lot of my videos. It's not a lot of editing, but I love being in front of the camera, and I love talking. And it's gone through many different variations in my life. Like I said, whether it was in school and I was in speech and debate, and I did a lot of like debating and on teamwork on that kind of front. But then I did a lot of video production with my best friends, and we made a lot of little things like for local shorts and little competitions we did. And I acted in a movie when I was 19. I was one of the 4 lead roles in an indie movie. And like it was, so I like to entertain. I don't know, man. Like I just feel like this life is so short that it's important to like enjoy the time you have. So like as far as like what I could ever do to like help people, I don't know, being an entertainer of sorts. I always got by in life just with a little comedy, with a little making things a little lighter, rather than just the existential dread that's facing down on all of us, focusing on that. Why not focus on the lighter side of things? That's silly too. It's not just existential dread, it's existential comedy as well. So
adds a little bit of love and laughter in the day, right? So
that's the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly, Retro. And that's, you can either be capped at your job and reach a certain point. You can work for yourself and have no cap, but then you're definitely going to work yourself to the max, especially if you care about the outcomes. Okay, Josh, you ready? Let's go live. I'm going to go ahead and hit the live.
Oh, shoot. We're not live? Oh, well, it's a good thing I've been recording, so I record everything.
Okay, perfect. I love it. All right, so then let's look at one or two more areas on the personal side. So social media obviously can take its toll on the mind. It's heavy on the shoulders sometimes to get out the content, sometimes to have some rough and harsh feedback, run through that and continue kind of churning your way through that. How have you really maintained the ups and downs of your time here in social media and kept your head above waters?
I'm really good at not responding to things. Like I apologize to anyone who've ever commented on one of my videos and has just gotten a thumbs up or a like. At a recent weekend outing with some of my best friends, one of the games that we were playing was you had to look at your phone and go through your text messages and see how many text messages have gone through to you just without skipping any that you haven't responded to. And the person who had the most messages had to drink. Let's just say I had to drink. And so most people couldn't get through 5 or 6 messages, 4 messages, 3 messages of text on their phone before they responded back. Guess how many messages I got through? Wonder. Tell me. How many do you think that I got through before I found one text message that I actually responded to in my text messages?
27.
This isn't YouTube. This isn't YouTube comments. These are text messages people
Direct to your phone. Yeah.
To my phone. Yeah.
27.
That's not okay. Come on. I'm not that much of a monster. Come on. Like, I have some decency. I'm a monster, but no, the number's 12.
26. 12. Oh,
okay. The number would have been 8, but it was decided that a thumbs up did not count as a response to my 8th one. A thumbs up actually counted as a lack of a response, as a negative. So the number should have been added to, because just thumbs upping something that warranted a response is insulting. And so that was something I learned about myself that night. And I think it ties into being the whole social media thing. I just don't let it get to my head, you know, like if I get a bad YouTube comment, or if I get a bad, you know, someone says something that rubs me the wrong way or whatever, I'm pretty good at just letting it bounce off of me. I really just, it's not that it bounces off of me. It's really that I just don't give a shit. It's more what it is. Like, it's not even, it doesn't even hit me, honestly. So I think it's the level of like age thing. Like, I definitely probably could have let things like negative comments or people saying something that you disagree with, but they say it in a harsh way because it's online. I could see where like young Josh would get really hot about stuff like that, probably, and catch old Josh in a bad day, and he probably could too. But for the most part, like, I just don't care. Like, I really don't care about what other people think. And like, I think that was what made me, when I was like become successful, is like when I really, really realized, not only do I not care what other people think, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't. So I started doing more of what I wanted. I started caring less about others' opinions. I started leaning into more of the ideas I had and taking more chances with those types of things. And that's not something you can ever teach someone, you know, but it is. I just don't care about it, is how I get into it.
Josh seems proud to be a bad friend.
Oh God, Thrifty, don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Don't you dare. Thrifty's gonna go digging.
Oh, we got Swami here. Good to see you, Swami. Good to see you, Trio. Welcome. Glad to have you. Yeah, catch up later when you get a chance. It was a good conversation. We're almost there, but it's been a fun one for sure. But 2 hours and 20 minutes in. Wow, great, good times. Let's wrap.
Started 2 hours in, man.
Right.
Swami, welcome to the show.
We just hit the live button.
Yeah, I'm starting to get my voice is starting to get going now, you know.
One of the things I was curious for you as well, and it goes back to the point about the dedication in the business, working all these hours. Do you have, I guess is a better question, do you have a balance in your life, or does this really take over?
It took over a lot more when I was streaming more hours in the day. I find that ever since I stopped live streaming and like just running around in circles, it felt like for very little gain. Or, I mean, I don't know. Like, I can't say live streaming wasn't for little gain. I got a lot of followers. I made a lot of friends, and I made a lot of connections in the time that I was live streaming. But at the end of it, you're selling modern packs for like 50 cents to, on a good day, $1 each in profit. And that's like a really good day. Like, and I didn't run crazy bounties and crazy, like, you know, guess the energies. I never even played that game. Like, I played Rip Till You Hit, which was a game that I invented on Whatnot as being like one of the first sellers to start doing that with Pokemon. And what that means is you open packs until a hit that you predetermine is hit. So usually it would be like Rip Till You Get a V or a V Max, or like a secret rare of some sort, which would be like a gold, an alt art, or a full art, or, you know, something of whatever, that kind of thing. And you would pay different amounts to get that, but it would be like a math equation. So like if it was 3 packs to get 1 V card, I would do $10 to do a Rip Till You Hit a V, because that's like 3 packs. So sometimes it's more. So if you hit it on the first pack, sometimes it takes more to get there. So it takes 5 packs. So it evens out. So like, I was never making the profit margins that like this crazy like bounty games were, because I never ran those types of games. I specifically ran a game that was good for the buyer. and I invented that game on Whatnot, and I popularized it, and then it's the only thing that's allowed to be used now. It's actually the only game they can still play on Whatnot, because it's the only game that actually benefits the buyer rather than the seller. So like, I wasn't making a ton ripping packs. It was more of a volume play. I was using it to be able to sell more graded cards and get more follows and essentially sell bigger items while I was selling the smaller items. But when that interest in the small items and the competition got so great and the interest was so little that it didn't become worth the time, it was a very easy decision for me to just cut ties and be like, Whatnot, no thank you. I don't like what's going on there. It's not making me money, for one. For two, it's scamming a lot. It's allowing a lot of scams to proliferate and make some of my buyers very unhappy. And while I wasn't contributing to that, I didn't want to be associated with it.
Right.
So it wasn't like I was making some sort of a like moral decision. It just wasn't making me a lot of money. It just happened to also play along that it also was a scummy place. So that's why I left that. But it's like, you know, pack breaking these days, you don't make a lot of money on it. So you really have to be in it because you're like growing a platform, you like wanting the views or using it to drive business to your store for other things. So I personally, with as far as like life balance is concerned, I've found my life balance has gotten so much better being away from that live stream grind and doing a different type of grind. So that's just what I focus on more.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. When I talked to Brian from Pokey, he was doing those 8-hour streams, 12-hour streams, and there's no there's no balance in that. It's just by the time you do that, ship orders, that's a whole day. Sleep for a few hours and do it again. No thanks. That's does not sound like fun to me. We got one from Swami here. What would the young Josh say to his doppelganger? We brought this up earlier.
He'd say, "Lay off the Arby's," is what he would say.
We got the meats, baby. We got the meats.
So did that doppelganger. He had the meats.
All right. So we will end with a couple of closing questions here. We'll do this one for you, and then we'll have one that we typically ask all the guests. So knowing what you know today, all the knowledge that you have, going through the experiences, what would be your advice for somebody to really best engage with the Pokemon hobby? Whether that's collecting, playing, even running a business, what would be your advice to best engage in the hobby?
I would probably tell someone that was just getting in the hobby to really enjoy themselves with it. They need to really be able to constantly to understand that collecting is a moving target and that there's never an end. And to believe that there's an end, you will start getting yourself into some dangerous situations. So to just understand, to like when getting into this type of a hobby, to really just be open and not to fall for, I guess, the hype, and to understand that there's not an end goal. Like, and if there is an end goal, you're going to realize that that's going to change and that's going to cost you a lot of money, because right when you get to that end goal, you're going to be like, shit, what's next? And then it's going to be a bigger end goal and it's going to be more expensive and it's going to be a whole nother route. So like, I guess I wouldn't have known this because it's not something like it's not something, you know, when I got into it when I was a kid. But if I had to give advice to some kid, I would say, take it slow, kid, you know, take it slow and understand that it's a journey and it's going to be a lifelong journey. So that's what I think is an important lesson that someone could learn. Well, if I had to tell myself something like that, I could tell something, just me going back in the hobby though, it would just be one simple thing: buy less hidden fates. That's what I would tell myself in the hobby. If I could go back and tell myself one thing that would save me a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of investment, buy less hidden fates. That's all.
Because you were ripping it. You were going to the stores. I remember some of the stories you were telling. You and your wife or girlfriend at the time were going to the store, fiance, I should say. We're going to the stores and buying it up. And
I love it. I love the set. And I would still be ripping it to this day if I could still keep getting it. But God, I would have thought for sure that set would be very,
Number
very
one.
valuable right now. And I spent so much money and effort and time on that set exactly. So that's what I tell myself is don't waste your time.
Be rich.
Yeah, and don't buy as much Hidden Fates. And I would probably be a lot more liquid today than I am now.
You'd be close to that private jet buying $8,000 worth of wines.
A lot closer than what we're at now, where let's just say we're flying Frontier these days. Let's just say we're flying Frontier, not private jets. All right,
Frontier and taking the free wine tastings.
Yeah, luckily with wine tastings, I still know a lot of people in the industry, so like I can get by with my my wine industry
connections.
Yeah. I don't know anyone in the airport industry or the flying industry. I don't know. Pilot. Who do you need to know? Someone who works for like an airline or something?
I guess, or maybe some private pilots. That's the key there. It's private pilots.
Yeah, I do miss the days of working at the winery. You just meet some crazy people. I used to have these people who'd come in. They worked for CBS, and they would do like hockey broadcasting once a year when the finals would come. If whatever team in my area was in the finals, we have 3 teams here in California, so 2 of them are in Northern California too. So we have pretty good chances. Okay. And they're pretty good teams too. Or one of them's in Northern, 2 of them in Southern. I've switched that up. But the Sharks are pretty good, and they were in the playoffs for like 7 years straight. So for 3 years, I got to go to hockey games for free during the playoffs because these people would come in from CBS and come to the winery. They'd be like, "Hey, you want some tickets to the game?" I'm like, "Hey, you want some free wine tastings?" And it was a great deal.
Let's shake on it. Yeah. Perfect.
I miss those days, but other than that.
You should have got the connections to the private jets, man. That would have been the key.
Yeah, man. The thing about rich Texans who have that much money is they're the fucking worst. I'm sorry. If you're a rich Texan with that much money, but like anyone with that much money, I would never want to spend any time with. Like, I had to sell wine to these people, like grinning through my fucking teeth here because I talking with my foot in my. I couldn't talk to them and say what I really wanted to all the time. I would have to be like schmoozing with these people that I really disliked. So like, I will say that selling wine to the top 1%, I hated. I hated my customers. Like, I'll say it. I didn't like them. Once in a great while, there was someone that I liked a little bit better, but rich people like that were kind of the worst. Pokemon people, I love. Like, they may not be rich, but the customers, they may be broke, they may not be rich, but the quality of people that I get to sell to and deal with is so much more satisfying, albeit a little bit more worrisome because they're a little more irresponsible with their money and they have less of it generally. But the people I deal with are so much better that that makes it worth it. So
I could agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Just stop hating on the rich people, Josh.
Yeah. He thinks he's gonna be rich someday. Like we were talking about rich, like we were talking earlier. He lives in this illusion that he could ever be rich enough that he'd be one of those types of people. And I respect that. It's cute, It's cute that he still thinks he could be that rich. That's all.
Well, Retro, he's gonna be doing full-time Pokemon. He's now gonna get a finance job. I don't know if he got one yet on the finance job, but he's been looking, so I hadn't heard any updates there.
He better get a freaking finance job because he's been using that as an excuse for why he can't do
he's not showing up
other content and other things, and it's for so long that I'm be disappointed if he's not, like Wolf of Wall Street status here.
Well, he thinks if he learns about the money, then he can find the secret to the money. That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
English Pokemon cards will be here for when you decide to find your way back, Nick. They're always here in the end. I know you haven't found your way there yet, but eventually the English cards will be here for you.
That's right.
And with that, he's gonna leave some throw ups and throw up emojis in the chat, I'm sure.
We got something like that for my FOMO.
Are you more of an English lover or more of a Japanese collector? Do you kind of collect impulsively whatever comes to you, or what do you find yourself more into?
I'm definitely an English collector, but I do handpick a few Japanese sets that I like. So I did V-Star Universe, for example. Really enjoyed it. Good set. Obviously, I loved Crown Zenith in English, but I'll handpick a few of the key sets in Japanese that I really like. But the rest of it's going to be English. And you know, I was going to pull the thread. We didn't get to it. I'll buy a case of wine from me when I'm at the Morgan Stanley.
Yeah, most of the wineries that you're going to want to go to if you're that rich, you're not going to know the name of them. They're going to be somewhere that's like out in the mountains. You got to get an invite from a winemaker or something.
They come pick you up in a private jet.
Days, and you got to get a private appointment. Yeah.
But I want to pull the thread, especially since we have Swami here as well. I was listening to your last podcast, and I forgot to mention this earlier, so I'm glad you brought that up. And one of the things you guys were, quote unquote, discussing, was about how children, especially here, specifically in America, don't really want to collect Japanese cards. And if they do, they've been trained. And I thought it was interesting, and I was going to leave a comment on it. And I said, well, you know what? I'll talk about it with him tonight. Because here's my real world example. 2 kids, 8 and 5. At the time they started collecting, we were buying V-Star Universe, and we were buying Crown Zenith, Brilliant Stars, those sets. They liked my Japanese cards because they thought they looked cool. And so we did some trades, and they got a few of them in their binder. Then they started building their collections with more and more English. They didn't want to rip any Japanese packs. They would just take a couple of hits, and they would have it in the binder. Now, fast forward a year later, they said, Daddy, they came back and handed me a stack of the Japanese cards and says, Daddy, here, you can have these. You can sell them on your website. I don't want the Japanese cards. And they only want to have English. Now, granted, they play, and so that they do enjoy. My 5-year-old is more of a collector than a player, but definitely my 8-year-old. And I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting perspective, because that's just a small sample size. But definitely, I would agree to your comments. The cards do have better texture. They do have better quality, but they don't care. They don't care. They wanted the cards. They watch the cartoons. They want to see that card and read the name, read some information about the attacks and all the cool things the attacks are going to do on that card. And they want to see it. And they look at the Japanese card and they flip the page. They just can't connect with it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have like a kid to have that direct information from. I'm just going at it from like my analysis of like human psychology and like thinking about it as a kid, or like thinking how I might think of it like a kid. Like me, I just told you in the beginning of the podcast that like when I was a kid and I discovered I could play these cards, that was the only thing that I cared about that was like cool. It's like that I could use it and then it would, I could make a better deck or whatever. Collect it is like secondary. Collecting wasn't a big thing. So if I had a Japanese version of a card, I wouldn't be able to use it. So it wouldn't mean anything to me. So like, that's where I'm thinking of it. Like as a kid, they don't care. What do they care if there's a white dot on the back of the card? Because like the thing that we get hung up on is like the little tiny imperfections that happen on English cards versus the imperfections on Japanese cards. And that's what the majority of like Pokemon YouTube is like, oh, the QC is horrible. It's off-centered. It's like a kid doesn't know what centering is. And if they do, they only are regurgitating what Leonhardt said about centering on one of his older graded videos. So, I mean, I would just think that probably the kid would want the thing that is, yes, shiny. They like shiny things. But in a vacuum, when they're both shiny, one's a little bit shinier than the other, but the other one is their native language, they're probably going to go for the native language. They're not going to look at the two cards and be like, well, this is clearly better quality. The texturing is better. Like when a 12-year-old looks at me and says, you know what, Josh, I like English, but the quality control on the cards has just gotten atrocious lately. And it feels like the money that they're raking in from all these profits should be better used on some of their newly acquired printing facilities. Whereas these Japanese cards are just to the nth degree so much more better made and quality. Like when a kid looks at me and tells me that's why they like the cards more, sure, then I might agree with you.
That was my son's exact sentence.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like when I start hearing that, then you're going to see me going balls deep into Japanese. But
so, well,
That's where I'm at with that. That's all.
there's Retro's perspective. If they're not buying $500 slabs, I don't care. Yeah, let's see. Here's a secondary confirmation. So Chef's kids are pretty much doing the same thing, right? So,
and it is like, I think that the thing that the parents see, like, is that they like Japanese and that they're enjoying it, and that when they're enjoying it with their kids, the kids are enjoying it too, because they like to be a part of something with you. Like, you're excited, they're excited. So like, if you were excited the same way for an English thing, then it would be the same sort of thing. So it's just like people lying to themselves about it. And like, I get it. Copium is cool. And like telling yourself one thing, but knowing that it's not true in your heart of hearts is fine. But when we're talking about kids now, if you're talking about texturing and grading now and the quick flip, Japanese is clearly, I've never said that it's not better from that perspective, but there's just
I'm
things,
with you.
You know.
Yeah, I thought I'd just give that real world example to kind of back up, your points there earlier. Not in this house, Mr. Walrus. There is no Pepper the Pig, my friend. They get grounded and they lose all their Pokemon cards, and Daddy sells them on the website. This man's gonna roast me and not explain what centering is. I love it. Oh, here we go. So Josh hates rich people. Shaping his business model around like kids. Yeah. No.
Listen, if you don't hate rich people, then you just haven't seen what they've taken, or I don't know. But we'll talk later in the podcast.
Smart kids. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I got one for you, and this is usually how we kind of bring it to a nice close, and it's a perspective of when we're gone in the hobby, Josh. What legacy do you hope to leave in the hobby when you're gone?
Well, I'm going to have hours and hours of YouTube content to leave behind. So at least there's, if anyone ever wants to hear me talk, there's hours of that available.
Of that.
Probably more than anyone ever needs to hear, to be honest. But like meaningful legacy, I just hope that when I decide to retire and leave this hobby, and this goes into what I disliked about you asked what I dislike about the hobby the most, and it was the uncertainty in time.
Yeah.
I just hope that when I leave the hobby, we're still not having the same conversation and uncertainty surrounding these things that we love so much. Because like, I love this stuff, and I'm still thinking that it'll all go to zero in like, potentially 5 to 10 years. So like, I don't know. I guess the legacy I hope is that I hope the hobby has grown and established itself so much to the point, like, I don't know, like coin collecting maybe has, to like where it's an established hobby, and we can stop having this conversation of like, is it going to survive long term? Like, so I don't know, because we're not there yet, and I'm not there yet, but that's maybe would be a nice legacy to be able to leave behind, is to maybe help shape that, or help
shape the stability.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, because we're definitely still in the maturing phase of growing this hobby, and it's a fun journey and lots of fun rides along the ways. But yeah, that uncertainty can be daunting at times, especially if your livelihood depends on it.
Yeah, like if you're just collecting this stuff, and it's like one thing, like I mean,
yeah, whatever.
It's whatever. But like, if you're projecting, like you're making long term, 1, 3, 5 year plans for your business, like, in 5 years, I'm legitimately concerned if the card market is going to be as vibrant as it is today. Because 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, it was not. It was definitely not. And people often forget that. They're like, well, it always goes up and everything goes. It's like, I don't know. Like, for a long time, things were a little wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, flat or down slightly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I just hope we're not having that same conversation, and I hope I could be a part of making that a reality. And it's going to take a lot of give and take for that,
Well, I hope to do that with you, Josh. It's going to be a fun journey, my man.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you do a trainer spotlight sometime as well, so we can dive into a little bit about who Pokemon Wonder is. 'Cause while it's nice being interviewed, it feels weird being not the one interviewing. So I would
Really?
love to be able to get that off my, I have some
Okay.
questions I need to ask,
Sure. Anytime. Anytime. Happy to do it. Return the favor. Was this a weird dynamic for you though? Before we end?
Yeah, it's I've been on one other podcast where I was being interviewed like this, and it's always weird. Like I feel like when people that's why I like interviewing people, is because oftentimes with people, they don't talk about themselves, right? You'll go make content for a year, 2 years, but you don't want to make a video talking about who you are, or like as a person, or what's behind the scenes. But your viewers have a lot of questions about that kind of
Right.
stuff, and they're wondering things, but you just don't think about it because you're you and you already know it, and you're not going to make a video about like where you went to school. But like people want to know. So I think it's like really important to ask those questions to people, and it's always weird, it always feels weird. So to answer your question, it is a little weird, but it's one of those things that I think is important to do. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you having me on here, but I like doing that for people too, because it's like you get to dive into interesting things and then provide that for your viewers and their viewers, something
Exactly.
that maybe
Yeah.
you wouldn't have ever been able to provide on your own because it wouldn't have occurred to you.
Exactly. Yep. I love it. Well, I do again deeply appreciate the time you spent with us here today, Josh. Again, all the people that came with us through the journey of the 2 hours and 44 minutes. Deeply appreciate everybody that always shows up and all the newcomers. Um, all of Josh's links, I'll get those updated, Josh, right?
Half of them aren't active anymore. Honestly, if you want to find me, just find me on Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram is where I'm
Instagram.
most active these days. You can contact me directly. If you want to get better deals from me, I could probably put it on TikTok, and you'll be able to get a discount based on whatever, the TikTok deal of the week is. And that's probably your best bet of getting things purchased from me at good prices that are way under retail. So yeah, hit me up on
Well,
TikTok. Give me a follow. I could use it. And I appreciate everyone who has supported me throughout the years.
yeah. Well, thanks everybody. It's been a great time, and we look forward to seeing all of you guys on the next one, guys. Have a good one.